Oops, we're in mid-yawn. Good afternoon. This is a hearing of the Chatham Conservation Commission being held on June 14th, 2023, in accordance with the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Town of Chatham Wetlands Protection Bylaw and Regulations. My name is Bob Rawls and I serve as the chair. Today's hearing is being broadcast live on Channel 18 and is being recorded for the on-demand archives available on the town's website. It's being conducted in person, by phone, and by video conference. The agenda, instructions on how to attend, and copies of documents for review are posted on the town's website. To all participants, whether attending by phone or online, please remain muted unless you have been recognized by the chair. When recognized, please identify yourself for the record. If you're attending by phone, you can mute and unmute by using *6. If you're online and you're not a commissioner, please keep your camera turned off unless you've been recognized. Indicate that you wish to speak by using the raise hand feature. So that we have a record of a quorum, I'll now ask each commissioner to indicate their presence. Vice Chair Bob Delvecchio.
Present.
Janet Williams.
Present.
Karen Latin
Present.
is here remotely, I see, and she is muted. Just give us a thumbs up, Karen. Thumbs up. She's here. Okay, there we are. There we are. At least Gordon.
Present.
Mary Sullivan.
I'm present.
Cheryl Meservey is not here today, and I am here, so we do have a quorum. Nikki Smith, Chatham's conservation agent, who is here remotely, it looks like, will now lead us through the agenda. I did see her here, didn't I? Nikki, are you with us? I'm saying she isn't right at the moment. Yeah, this could be. So I'll just go ahead and open up the first item, which I've not done before, but I think I just read from the agenda, which is 34, it's an extension.
Sorry, I'm here. My internet was cutting out.
No internet, okay, that's a good reason. All right, I just almost started.
All right, let me know if I'm cutting out. The following applicant has requested an extension to an order of conditions, 34 Hallway Street, David and Shelley McManus, map 17C, parcel 3716A, SE 103404, proposed raise and replace single-family dwelling and associated site improvements. So the letter requested a 3-year extension, I believe, but we only allow 1 year, but they just want to do 1 year, or we would approve 1 year for the plantings to be more established.
Okay. All right. Questions, anyone? Kind of a typical standard type of request for 1 year. So I assume this is their first year, and they have, 3 total years they could do this theoretically. 1 year at a time. All right. You're doing the motion, okay. And then, Karen, Elise has volunteered to second since you're remote. It goes a little faster.
I'll move that we approve a 1-year extension for the order of conditions for 34 Hallway Street.
Gordon, second.
Roll call vote. Mary.
Aye.
Bob.
Aye.
Janet.
Aye.
Elise.
Aye.
Karen.
Aye.
And
Aye.
I vote aye.
Welcome to the audio conference.
All right, the next one is a request for determination of applicability, 23 Hardings Lane, Jane Carter, map 14C, parcel 19, R23-10, demo of a portion of the house and deck in the buffer zone and reconstruct addition and window wall.
Hi, Susan Ledoux from Eastward Companies. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
All right, wonderful. So I've submitted an RDA package to the commission along with a proposed site plan and a bit of a landscape plan showing where the work will occur. And so if you take a look at my letter dated May 25th, that we submitted the resource area. The subject property includes a 50 and 100-foot buffer area to the top of bank of a ditch that's located in the adjacent lot to the north and is connected to an isolated wetland area, possibly an abandoned bog. That's just from looking at it. On a Conservation Foundation parcel off of Crisscross Lane and Wineberry Way, adjacent / northeast of this site. The resource area was delineated by the presence of the ditch, as shown on the submitted site plan by Clark Engineering. An approximately 25-foot wide mature wooded vegetated buffer area does exist now between the ditch and the existing rear lawn area of the existing home. In the proposed project, the lot is just over 30,000 square feet, and the existing single-family dwelling on the lot with associated site coverage for the driveway, deck, and the shed are located on this lot. The majority of the building and site coverage are outside of the 100-foot buffer area. 7,889 square feet of the lot is within the 50-foot to 100-foot buffer area. 139 square feet of the existing dwelling and deck, or 1.8%, are located within the 100-foot buffer area. There's an existing lawn area behind the house within the 100-foot buffer area that's maintained, and ornamental shrubs are around the house. If you take a look at the photos we submitted also, you can see from the aerial and the photo of the back of the house, you can see that the house itself, the lawn, the ornamental shrubs, and the existing portion of the house and deck within the buffer area will be removed as part of this project, and a 154 square foot house addition and window wall will be installed in this location, which is about 2% coverage, which is an increase of about 15 square feet within the 50 to 100-foot buffer. And any disturbed lawn area and shrubs immediately adjacent to the house will be replaced, as shown on the attached landscape plan. Excuse me. So the work and construction protocol, number one, will access the property over the existing paved driveway to the existing home. The method of erosion control will include a silt fence with wattles at the limit of work line, which will be approximately 8 feet off of the existing house. A front-end loader excavation machine will stay within the limit of work area outside of the 100-foot buffer line, will remove the structure, load debris into a dump truck to be removed from the site. No demolition material will remain on the site. No existing trees on the site nor existing vegetated buffer within a 100-foot setback, I'm sorry, there's a typo, area are proposed for removal with this project. Loam will be applied to the disturbed portion of the site, and this area will be reseeded or revegetated, as shown on the landscape plan. And then the nearby resource area will be protected from the very minimal disturbance of the removal of the site coverage or construction of the house addition and the deck, and again, by the silt fence and wattle installation on the limit of work line, and by not removing any existing trees or existing mature vegetated buffer. And the site has been staked if you've been out to take a look at it. And we feel this proposal will have no negative impact on the site or buffer to the resource area. We appreciate your consideration of our request. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So, does anyone have questions?
No, I think that this should not require, any further work. I mean, it's 15 feet. That area, the addition is, my understanding is, the addition is really not impacting the conservation area or any area that we would want to protect. And if you look at the other homes on the street, it's nothing, their addition is nothing like what's already been done. So I think it's not worth requiring.
So you would say this, we could approve a negative determination?
Yes, sorry, I always get the negatives. So I believe we should approve the negative determination that it should not require any further work on our part.
All right, anyone else?
I agree. My attention was first grabbed by the vegetation until I realized that those foundation plants were all outside our area and that the only plants that are going in, I'm going to assume that arrowwood viburnum and hummingbird clethra are all natives, and that's the only thing that's going. Is it, I don't know, is it?
I'll speak to that.
Okay, I'll let you speak to that.
Yeah, 'cause
If
it
they
looks-
are, then I have no problem
Yeah,
with the
because it looks like it's a
proposal of
Cape Cod lawn now, in my walkthrough. Or, I mean, it didn't appear to be very,
Oh. When I walked it, it looked like turf lawn into the NDZ, but,
oh, in the back.
yeah, in the back.
Like,
But,
okay.
you know, that's tangentially,
Yeah.
that's not really directly germane to the application here. Anybody else?
I saw a lot of clover in the grass, so I assumed it was.
Okay, well, maybe,
That's, like, maybe that's probably.
maybe it is, maybe it is. It was into the NDZ part that caught my eye.
Yeah.
But again, that's not directly germane to what we're talking about. It's
Yeah,
just sort
I'm
of a,
sorry.
go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I did fail to mention that on the landscape plan, I did try to put all conservation-approved native plantings in as replacements versus the typical ornamental. So I was aware of that.
Yes, thank you. Bob, this is, do you have anything do you want to say about it?
Yeah, sure. Hi, Susan, how are you?
Hi, Bob. How are you? Good, thanks.
The natives, can we inspect, I mean, can the agent inspect those after they're put in the ground?
Yeah, I don't see why not. Yeah.
Okay, okay, and also, who's gonna care for these plants? You know, with watering and so forth?
Yeah, but the homeowners will, and if there's a bit more that you would like, I will see if they have some sort of. I'm going to say to establish anything, we're going to probably need a little bit of irrigation to get any plants that would be disturbed back up, and I don't know if they have existing irrigation now. I can find out, but we could probably do some slow drip just to be sure that these things, start off and continue to grow over the next few seasons, similar to what you typically look for.
Sure, the landscaper is gonna install, the designer here is the same person that's gonna install the plants?
Well, the designer was me. So
Oh,
I will
okay.
be honest about that.
All right,
And we'll just make sure, we work closely with our landscaper anyway. So
Okay.
we'll make sure that they pay attention to that and do have a drip line on
Okay.
those.
Okay, I think that's all I have. I know Bob's gonna comment on the cultivars rather than straight natives, but I'll let him.
Go ahead.
I'll let him take over. Let him take over.
Yeah, you know me too well, Bob. So, Susan, you said you got these plants from the which list now, just to be sure?
Usually I take a look at if I'm doing a simple landscape plan, which I felt that this did not need to be very elaborate, especially with the little bit of disturbance within your jurisdiction. But I did notice that what was there is ornamental, and I think, these are plants that I believe have been on the list or on other plans that we have had approved. And felt that they could be used easily. If you have a suggestion or a substitution, I don't think we have a problem. I think that these had some nice qualities as far as aesthetics also.
Oh, no doubt,
For the
no doubt.
Yeah, yeah.
In my evolution on this commission, I've begun to realize that a lot of plants that a lot of people assume are natives are in fact cultivars. In other words, they're a cross between natives and non-natives, and they're basically turned into a cultivar that has properties that are more desirable for homeowners. They're less resistant, they're more resistant to being chewed on by insects, they make bigger flowers, they are more compact in many cases, et cetera. But there's plenty of research to suggest that those same plants are don't provide the food value that straight natives do, and including the nectar that they produce is not the same as the insects that co-evolved with them over millions of years are used to eating, and they don't like it. So they don't provide that value. So in my view, when we are talking about a resource area that's supposed to have natives, I would prefer, and I'm speaking for myself, based on my own readings, they should be straight natives. And the best way and the easiest way to tell whether they're straight or not is if there's a fancy little name associated with it, especially in quotation marks, that usually indicates that they're cultivars. So now this is in the outer aura, this is not in the NDZ. So if this area were in the NDZ, I'd be banging the table saying they have to be straight natives. In your case, it's very little of the project that would be even in the outer aura. The plants that I would look at are Little Princess Japanese spirea. Obviously, is not a straight native because it's got the word Japanese in it. All right, so that's a tip-off right there. And Little Princess is another tip-off. Hummingbird clethra is probably not a straight native. How many of them should be straight natives? Well, we have sort of a general rule of thumb in the outer aura where until we get our new regulations approved, we've been shooting for 50%. So, but how do you define 50%? Area or number of plants? I suggest area, because you can get a whole bunch of little plants and say, oh, we did 50%, but they only comprise 2 square feet. So that's where I go with all of this. Other than that, I think the project is approvable as a negative determination for an RDA. But I do quibble with the plantings.
I understand.
Thank you. All I ask for is understand.
No, no, thank you for the education also. I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah, it's going to be a process, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Spreading the word. So, if you could substitute, I don't want to sit here and design it live with you,
Yeah.
but I guess I'm looking at the hummingbird clethra that are in the outer aura. And then try to get approximately 50% of those that are cultivars, straight natives, that's all. So
Okay.
we could say something like that we only have a limited space in the negative determination approval to stipulate conditions. And in fact, there is no inspection process formally as part of the RDA process, and that's a problem. But if we could stipulate that, and I don't know, Nikki, in your view, could you go out and take a look at it, since this is I mean, you can make the case this is a little bit more than RDA, but not much. So, Nikki, any thoughts on all my pontifications here?
Karen has her hand up.
Who?
Karen.
Karen, while we're waiting for Nikki, you have something?
Yes, I wanted to know when you're reseeding whether it is the Cape Cod lawn clover.
But are you finished? I didn't want to
Yeah.
speak over you. Okay. Yeah, I anticipate what we've been using, if we've used seeding, we will use that, or if we use a sod, we've really started a lot of the micro clover sod that does not require a lot of watering. And I would see that we could use that in this area for sure.
Okay, that would be great. And then, Bob, I also agree with you. That was my other point, was the Japanese spirea and the clethra being not a straight native.
Right, okay. All right, thank you. Nikki, are you here? think Nikki is having internet problems, so she may be in and out. So I'm going to answer, I think we can put a couple of stipulations in the RDA. We will ask Nikki to go, or can we ask you, Susan, that at the end of your project, can you contact the agent and ask for
At the tone, please record your message. When you
A
have
review.
finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
ask for,
Yeah.
to review the
Yeah.
plantings that you, or beforehand, I guess, check with Nikki to see if she will be okay with the natives that you've selected, and we can handle it that way.
Okay. Yeah, I can make that change soon, you know, in the next couple days. I can do that, give that to Nikki. And then what's typical is when we ask for a certificate of occupancy, Nikki said she can't hear anything.
I
I just
see
saw
that,
that on
yeah.
my screen,
Yeah,
I'm sorry. And so what we typically do is we ask each board or department, I should say, who's signing off on the CO. So that will be my trigger to ask Nikki to go out and take a look at the site also, as we're wrapping up the site work.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about that part. If Nikki were here, she could answer that question, but I do think if you just, if you're going to revise the planting list, then we should be all right, I think. I mean, you know what, I think you know what I'm talking about when I say straight natives.
I do, yeah. Yep, I got the message loud and clear. I'll go back to the list also.
Yes, okay, thank you. All right, so I think we're ready for a vote. I don't know whether it's
-3 or
-3. well,
It's a buffer zone, so I think,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
-3,
3.
yeah.
move that we approve the determination of applicability for a negative determination, -3 determination for 23 Hardings Lane.
Gordon, second?
Roll call vote, Mary.
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Janet?
Aye.
Elise?
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
And I vote aye. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
If you are satisfied with your message,
So-
press 1 to listen to your message. Press
Nikki's-
2
Nikki's
to
still
erase
maybe
and
trying to come in,
re-record.
so-
Press 3 to...
I think we can just proceed, and then when she shows up, she shows up. So the next item on the agenda is a notice of intent. Unfortunately, I think this is for 299 Cranberry Lane,
Nikki knows what's going on.
but I believe this is probably intended to be continued again. I think this was supposed to, we were waiting basically on, to find out what the zoning
Read it,
was
read-
going to
read-
do with it.
Read it. Open it, read it.
Read one.
The-
Oh, you mean the
Yeah,
reviews?
we are going to continue it, yeah, but you have to.
299, yeah, there it is, okay. Approval from, from the zoning board, the approval is required. They are scheduled to be heard on June 22nd, so I think we're going to continue past that.
Yep.
Which is 28th, I guess.
Make a motion that we continue 299 Cranberry Lane to June 28th, 2023.
Gordon, second?
Roll call vote, Mary,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
Janet,
Aye.
Elise.
Aye.
Karen,
Aye.
and I vote aye. All right. So, Nikki, you're not back, I'm assuming. So I'll go on to the next one. And that is another notice of intent for 90 Squanto Drive, Scott Crawford. 90 Squanto Drive LLC, map 10C, parcel 21-E4, SE 103633, a septic upgrade.
Can you folks hear me? My name's Mike Pimentel.
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So, this
A
project
little,
does
it's a little
involve,
faint, you're a little faint, if you could up the volume.
Okay. Can you hear me a little bit better?
A little bit.
All right, I'll do my best to speak up. So this project is a septic system upgrade for an existing single-family home over at 90 Squanto Drive. Currently, there's an existing septic tank and leaching pit that's located in the front of the property, right next to the end of the gravel driveway. System is approximately anywhere between 60 to 67 feet away from the coastal bank that's located in the back of the property. What we're proposing to do is upgrade the system by removing the existing system and replacing it with a new Title V system. New Title V system will comprise of a 1,500-gallon tank, pump chamber, and a leaching facility comprising 500-gallon LC6 chambers that are located on the northwest corner of the property. We put the system in that location just to maximize the distance from it to the coastal bank. At its closest point, it's approximately 69 feet from the coastal bank and is over 100 feet away from the salt marsh. Again, we tried to maximize the distance to the coastal bank with our new septic system, so we had to put the system in the front yard and keep in that location. We did go in front of the Board of Health on Monday of this week, received approval, and now we're in front of the commission to seek your approval so the homeowner can line up an installer to do the work.
Okay, thank you. I have questions. Does anyone else?
Yeah, but
Okay, I'll go ahead and, you have questions, Bob? You want to start?
Sure. Hi, how are you?
Hi.
On the plan, I didn't see, on the legend, we have existing 1,000-gallon septic tank with this little notation of the septic tank here, but I don't see it on the plan. And you said it's next to the gravel, the existing one is next to the gravel driveway?
That's right. If you look at the end of the gravel driveway, you'll see in color cyan a septic tank that's kind of hidden because we put the new tank and the new pump chamber essentially right in the same location. So that's where the existing tank is located, right next to
I see it now, yeah.
tree.
I see it
Yeah,
overlaps.
it's pretty faint.
Yeah.
It does.
And there are approximately 12 native trees coming out because of the construction work?
Approximately. There may be some more if the installer, let's say, can't get access to the to where the septic system is going to go. Then another maybe 2 to 3 more trees will have to come down.
Okay. Any plans on replanting? New trees,
Well,
new?
It's a pretty. Yeah, we did look at that, but if you look at the lot, it's a very small lot. It's about 12,990 square feet, and most of that obviously is in an area where we're putting the septic system and where the existing home is located. So there wasn't really an opportunity to put any new plants or new trees in the location. Now, I did have a conversation with the owner, who may be on this call right now, and what we were trying to do is perhaps after the installation is complete, the installer can plant some trees back in the location of where they had to remove it just for access purposes only. So in other words, if there was a tree that was located exactly within the footprint of the system, we couldn't put a tree back in that location, obviously. However, if there was a tree that had to be removed simply just for access, then that tree will be able to be planted back, or a new tree would be planted back in that location.
Depending on the size.
Depending on the size, correct.
So between the septic tanks and the leaching field, maybe in that area there?
That's correct. You'll see the force main that runs through there. It's a red line. And maybe on each side of that line, we can plant back some trees.
Okay. That's what I'd be looking for, and maybe a planting plan as well, where new trees or transplanted trees would go back. Because we're losing a lot of beautiful trees in that area. Most of them are oaks. I think I counted one pine and some cherries. But how about between the house and the top of the coastal bank? Any areas in there where you could replant or plant some new trees?
Hi,
Well,
sorry.
like I said, go ahead, Scott.
Hi, this is Scott Crawford. May I speak?
Please do. Are you,
Hi, okay.
are you the owner?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Yes, I manage the property on behalf of my father, who's 90 years old and is the owner of the property.
Okay.
And I can assure the commission, we wouldn't want to lose any of these trees if it were up to us. They are beautiful. Unfortunately, Title V is putting a great many constraints on us, and we don't have that big a lot. Mike has reassured me that some of them are just temporarily gone because of the needs for access of the works, and we're very happy to replace those. Some of them, I'm told, would have to stay gone because they would interfere with the functioning of the new system, which obviously could create a worse problem over time. So we're more than happy to replace all of those which do not pose a risk to the new system. But unfortunately, we don't have a lot of other space to play with. Certainly between the house and the coastal bank, I hope you can appreciate that that is one of the key features of the lot, is that it has a beautiful view of the river. So it's not really an option for us to be putting trees between the house and the river. But we would certainly restore whatever we could that was just gone temporarily because of the building works. And if there's an opportunity to add a few, perhaps along the sides of the lot as well, we could be happy to do that. In other words, we're happy to do whatever is practical, but we probably struggle to do a complete replacement here.
Yeah, like on the west end of the lot, there's some room on the west end of the lot between the leaching field and the coastal bank, that section in there.
Yes, that is a fairly steep bank, but there are some trees on it, and I'd be happy to try and add a couple.
Sure. Yeah, I didn't walk on that end of it, so I don't know how much existing vegetation is there, but even if you could add a couple, that would help on that
Sure.
end.
Sure.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Go ahead.
No, I'm just going to say, one thing you can consider if you, in terms of planting behind the house, between the house and the river, is native shrubs that won't grow tall enough to impede the view, but will at least provide the kinds of ecological benefits that removing these trees might provide. We may not get one-to-one on tree replacement, but we're always willing to look at shrubs as an alternative, maybe at a 2-to-1 ratio, because they're small. But I guess what we're saying here is that it would be beneficial to see a proposed planting plan for the mitigation, because there are so many trees coming out, and then we can all be on the same page about exactly what is proposed to go in.
Yes, thank you. Is that,
That's it.
yeah. Elise? I would agree with everything that's been said. What is the actual number of trees coming out? And I'm not talking about just the native trees, but total trees.
Well, again, within the footprint of the leaching system, you're looking at about, say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, probably about 10 trees that are actually within the footprint of the leaching system or within the force main itself. Now, there are going to be other trees in that area that have to be removed. Exactly how many, we won't know until the installer goes in there and tries to install the system. Like I said, it's hard to say exactly how many are going to be coming down.
All right, well, I mean, when I was standing there, trees are flagged, and I assume those flags indicate the trees are coming out. And I counted, it took me a while to go through it several times. I counted 19 trees. And
Yeah, that's about right.
is that about right? Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of trees, obviously. So I understand that the lot is constrained. I understand that. It's pretty clear. I think Janet's thought is worth considering. Low-growing native shrubs between the house and the coastal bank could help make up for some of the biomass that's being lost. Trees planted on that side of the house would help. Another thing to consider are so-called understory trees. So in other words, you have some trees that will grow to be full size, but if you were to plant understory trees in there, I think a typical example is what around here is called a shadbush. I used to call a serviceberry where I used to live. And other mid-story, large shrub, small tree plants. There are some native varieties of those. So in other words, what I Yes, so in all, the upshot is I think we definitely need to see a planting plan, because that's a lot of trees within a resource area coming out. We have to do what we can to replace them. It may be that we can't replace them all, but we need to make an honest effort to replace as much of the ecological value of those trees as we possibly can. So a planting plan, and also a plan showing which trees are coming out and where trees will be going in, and by species. And we want to have a little diversity there. We don't want them all to be the same tree. We want a diverse selection of native trees and shrubs. I mean, you might argue that this is a case where you would like to consult with a specialist on this sort of thing, someone who knows these plants, can create a design for you. But that's up to you, of course.
Now, would that be something that the commission would want to see prior to voting on the project, or could we make that a condition of the approval?
No, that is too significant, in my opinion, for us to, we would need to see it and look at it. We can't just say, show it to us after the fact. Because this is a lot of trees.
Yep, I agree.
And some mature trees.
Yes, of course, we have some time constraints on making sure we replace the failed septic as well. Is that something, I don't know, in practice, how long that would take us to get done and approved?
You mean if you came back to us with a planting plan, how long would it take for us to approve it?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Well, typically, we can deal with that in one session. We wouldn't have to take multiple hearings to work that out typically, as long as there's a reasonably robust plan that you give us. I assume this is not you don't have a septic emergency situation here?
Well, we are able to pump out the system. Obviously, the longer we do that, the more uncomfortable various parties are. But we don't have to do it within the month. No, we've been told we have to do it by the end of October by the Board of Health.
Okay, so we have time, it would seem. So we just ask you to put together a complete planting plan, and also identify the trees that are coming out by species and by size and where they are.
Yeah, we have the location and size, just not the species, but we'll update a plan to show that.
Yeah. All right. So how long do you need?
Well, I'm going to consult with the owner after this meeting. Unfortunately, I won't be in the office for a couple of weeks, at least, starting next week. So it'll probably be sometime late July is probably what I'm imagining.
Yeah, well, the alternative here, and this is just, if you were to consult with a specialist in this, then they could work on it independently of you.
Yeah.
I mean, I gather your specialty is the septic part, not the planting part.
That's right, and that's the conversation I'll have with Scott after this meeting. So we can probably get a specialist to draw up a planting plan, submit it. When does the commission need to see a plan before the meeting? How many days?
It's about, usually, I think it's 7 to 10 days before the scheduled hearing.
Crystal?
7 days. Crystal?
Crystal, are you online?
Nikki's back, I think.
Oh, okay.
If you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you.
It has to be, you pick up your packets usually on that Friday before the meeting. So we would want them on like Tuesday or Wednesday before. So about 7 days, yeah.
7 days.
7 days, okay.
All right.
Those meetings continue through the summer?
Oh, yes, we meet all summer, yes. Yes, we do.
Yay.
Yeah.
So it's up to you when you want to continue to. We are, our next hearing is on the 28th of June, and then we move into July. And that would, 5th, 12th, yes, or 26th of July are our options.
July 12th, that's what it?
July
That's
12th?
your second meeting?
Yes, that sounds good.
Okay, we'll continue to July 12th. And
All right.
that's, presumably we have someone on board to prepare the plan, submitted it at least a week before the meeting. So that'll be on July 5th. Then, yeah, let's do July 12th.
Very good.
I'll move that we continue 90 Squanto Drive to July 12th, 2023.
Gordon second.
Roll call vote, Mary.
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Janet?
Aye.
Elise?
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
And I vote aye. See you then.
Great, thank you very much.
All right, so just because I was so choppy and cut out of the beginning of the meeting, 34 hallway, the extension was granted for 1 year, right?
Yes.
And then 23 Harding's, what, I
Right,
have no idea what happened. to that.
We approved it at -3, but Susan Ledoux is going to, I think, submit a revised planting plan to give us more straight natives in the resource area than are currently shown.
All right, and then 299 Cranberry, they actually requested a continuance, so do I need to open that?
We continued it to
June 28th.
June 28th. June 28th. 'Cause
Yes,
that-
okay, that's
yeah.
what they wanted, yeah. All right, so then next we have 58 Whistler Lane, Eileen Ryan, map 16J, parcel LC1, SE10 3638, demo of existing dwelling and construction of a new dwelling.
Good afternoon, David Clark from Clark Engineering. I also have with me Teresa Sprague from Blue Flags Design, and the applicant property owner Eileen Ryan is also in attendance. So the project involves the demolition of an existing dwelling and construction of a new dwelling within the buffer zone to a coastal bank on Pleasant Bay. The new house is sited in the same location as the existing house. In my alternatives analysis, I stated that we did consider moving the house back, but if you've been out to the site and if you look at the tree line, the existing tree lines on the plan, the house right now is situated in the best views of the bay and in the outer beach. Moving the house back would seriously impact the views from this house. So that's why we decided to leave it in the same proximate location. There is an expansion of the house. That expansion is to the south, trying to move it as far, the expansion is as far away from the coastal bank as we could practically put it, in that it's still within the buffer zone, and getting it out of the buffer zone would mean moving it substantially back on the property. The siting of the house, the new house, really doesn't impact any of the runoff from the property. It's kind of situated on the high spot on the lot. A majority of the lot slopes to the south and will continue to slope to the south. So all the improvements outside the no disturb zone are in areas of the property where it does not sheet flow towards the coastal bank. Other resource areas are all associated with the beach out in front, all below the toe of the bank. And also want to remind the board that this bank is armored. It's a retaining wall, a revetment. A lot of it was covered during the beach nourishment process that the town did as part of the dredging project for the channels out there. There's a new Title V system going in with IA technology that is as far south as we could put it, and it's substantially far away from the bank. No trees have to come out for the house construction. We do show regrading, but all of that is within the existing lawn area. The project results in a 204 square foot reduction in site coverage within the no disturb zone and an 874 increase in the 50 to 100. So the net increase is just a little over 670 square feet. And Teresa's here to talk about the mitigation and restoration that goes along with that request for an increase. Be happy to answer any questions.
Just a quick question, David. How much increase in the NDZ did you say?
Pardon me?
What's the change in coverage in the NDZ?
It's a reduction of 204 square feet.
Oh, I see. Hey, okay.
Can I just
Yeah, go ahead.
jump in here, because I
Yeah.
had the same question? I saw that, but as I look at the site plan, I have a hard time figuring that out, because it shows expansion to the east side, across the front, a very slight decrease as you go further down with those, you have all those bump outs. How does it end up being a net decrease?
A majority of all the expansion on the water side of the house is over the existing deck. So there's an outline of the deck underneath the proposed house, but it's not hatched as the proposed deck, so as not to confuse the two. But there is a substantial deck along the whole waterside face of this building.
Right, it's a couple different layers.
Yeah.
So is the area with the more vertical hatch lines?
That's the new deck,
And then the one with the more horizontal hatch lines
is a pergola over the deck.
okay, so it doesn't show the existing deck, which is
Just the outline of it. So
It's just white.
maybe what would be helpful is if there was if we do a
White.
colored plan showing the two.
Unmarked area, I'm guessing, is those two.
Yeah, that's the expansion
Okay.
of the house.
And I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unclear. I had the same question, David. How do we get the reduction? And but in effect,
The architect really worked with the applicant to stay within the constructed footprint of everything that's out there. So there's changes here and there, but for the most part, like I said, we're in the footprint of what's there now for everything in the no disturb zone.
So the new deck is within the footprint of the current deck? It does not go closer to the water than the current deck?
The deck is the closest, one portion of the deck is 19 feet to the top of the bank, and we're proposing the new structure to be 20 feet. The other section of deck is 17 feet from the top of the bank, and the new deck is 19 feet. So it's pulled
So
back
in both
slightly.
cases.
So explain again how the reduction occurs in the NDZ?
So the combination of dwelling and deck is less under the proposal.
Okay, so I see the hatch mark of the current house on one side of the deck
Yep,
being
yep, that's-
retreated, but it's expanding on the other side more, it looks like. So I'm just, intuitively, when I look at it, I just can't.
Yeah,
can't-
I'm
can't
sorry,
s-
the pointer is not here, so I could kind of trace it for you, but
Well,
It's a
It comes
crowded
back to the rescue.
Bring in one.
Marcus,
Here comes your,
Here it comes.
so hopefully
maybe
this works.
if we were to,
Okay. So, starting at this corner, this is I'm going to trace the outline of the existing deck. And it goes out to there, and then back and underneath the proposed addition, and then back to here. So, the reduction is here. There's a little bit of an increase here. And the substantial reduction is right here. So there's dwelling There's no proposed deck in this location, so there's dwelling and deck in this location that are going away, and that's basically the 204 square feet.
It makes sense. It's a crowded and complicated site plan. So
It is.
Yeah, so, but as you move along, I'm able to follow you, and what I thought were just other kinds of lines turn out to be the deck, the outline of the existing deck. So I can see it.
Okay.
Color would help, but, you know.
Yeah, it's really hard to see it from this map, but, well, I guess we can accept it for now. And any other questions on David's part? Okay. So, Teresa.
Good afternoon, Teresa Sprague with Blue Flax Design here on behalf of Eileen Ryan, who's in the audience with us. Overall, that we have a significant decrease in lawn and invasive vegetation removal that we're proposing as part of the mitigation plan. Within jurisdictional areas, we've got an area of about 6,118 square feet that is currently invaded with a mix of porcelain berry, bittersweet, honeysuckle, bush honeysuckle, shrub honeysuckle, throughout this entire area that's shaded in green. Additionally, we're going to extend the invasive species removal beyond jurisdictional areas, so there's an additional 2,864 square feet outside of jurisdictional area on this property. We're going to continue the invasive vegetation removal throughout the entire property, not just limit it to within jurisdictional areas. In addition to that, we're proposing to remove 4,930 square feet of existing lawn from within jurisdictional areas and another 3,232 square feet of lawn from outside of jurisdictional areas, in which we're going to create a native grass and wildflower meadow. So that really gives us an opportunity to help create a vegetated buffer at the top of the coastal bank where none currently exists. Lawn currently runs right down to the top of coastal bank, as shown in the image in our land management plan on page 4. The yellow line represents the approximate top of coastal bank, and you can see the area of lawn running just down beyond that. There is an existing stand of beach plum and bayberry located to the northeast of the house. That area is about 10% invaded with bittersweet. But the areas directly to the north and south of that are much more heavily invaded, approximately 90% invasive vegetation. So we're proposing to manage the invasive vegetation, to selectively remove the invasive vegetation from within the existing beach plum and bayberry stand in the back dune area, and then restore a mix of native vegetation, which will include 278 shrubs, a mix of bayberry, winterberry, holly, Deervella, dwarf bush honeysuckle, native honeysuckle, fragrant sumac, Carolina rose, witherrod viburnum, and arrowwood viburnum. Additionally, we are proposing planting around the foundation, and because most of that occurs within jurisdictional area, no more than 25% of the total vegetation planted in that area would be non-native. The majority of the vegetation on this site is invasive, with a significant number of non-native ornamental species located throughout the area, with the exception of that one stand of existing beach plum and bayberry. So we feel that the proposed mitigation will be a significant improvement to wildlife habitat value, as well as the protection of the resource area. So I'm happy to answer any questions about the proposed mitigation and restoration plan.
Thank you, Teresa. Anyone would like to start?
Okay, I'll start. So Teresa, as I looked at it, there's this lawn on the seaside of the house. So the stake for the top of the coastal bank is somewhere about 2/3 of the way from the house to the existing, and I guess it was where the bayberry and
Correct.
is.
Yes.
So as I look at your plan, your mitigation area absorbs all of that plus a little bit, because now the top of the coastal bank is just inside
Exactly.
VBS. So it's going to, that's all the land, the lawn that's coming out?
That is all the lawn that's coming out between the structure. Additionally, there'll be more shrubs planted at the top of Coastal Bank where some of the invasive vegetation and some of the lawn, there's a little bit of overlap there where that will be planted with woody vegetation. And then the existing area the lawn will be removed and that area will be planted with native grasses and wildflowers. The property owner's goal is to reduce the amount of lawn, minimize the amount of maintenance on this site, return it to a natural state as much as possible. There will be some fescue microclover lawn restored in the area where the existing septic system is located to the south of the house, mainly outside of jurisdictional area, just to provide some recreation space for volleyball, badminton, things like that. And then we're just keeping a strip of fescue microclover lawn around the dwelling, just to allow for access and circulation and maintenance, and then to connect to the existing path that will remain leading out to the beach.
Okay, thank you. That's all great. Is the existing beach plum and bay area in the front of the house, as well as the mitigation plantings, how are they going to be managed for view?
So they have been historically pruned,
Yep.
yes. Obviously, the goal would be to maintain the existing views as they currently are. That area, even though it has been regularly pruned, is the least infested area on the property. So ongoing invasive species management and monitoring will be important for this. The goal in the replanting is to plant with vegetation that's not going to require pruning or significant amount of pruning throughout the property. A lot of the taller vegetation will be planted along the eastern property line and the western and northern property line in order to, again, create some diversity, improve biomass throughout the area, but not require any pruning. The property owner's family does own the house directly to the northwest of this lot. And they do access back and forth between the two properties. So we are proposing a little access pathway on the north side to allow the property owners to continue to move back and forth with family members.
And that encompasses the strip of is that lawn there? Or
It's a fescue, just a fescue
fescue lawn.
microclover, yes.
So what I'm seeing on this plan is the white areas, primarily in the south. That is the meadow?
That is the meadow, yeah. There's a very light hatching. It might be hard to see.
Yeah,
if
usually
you-
on these digital ones, it's hard to see.
Yeah, yes,
On the northern and eastern side, there's also white. Is that lawn or is that?
No, that's all wildflower, grass and
Okay.
wildflower meadow.
Now I'm seeing it. Okay,
Yeah.
great. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, let's see, on the east side, you have a mow strip, Teresa?
We are proposing a mow strip along the eastern property line. As you could see, if you were out at the site, the property right next door is also severely infested with invasive vegetation. It would be wonderful if that property owner decides at some point to join in and remove their invasive vegetation, but anticipating that they may not be ready to jump right into that, we are proposing a 4-foot wide mow strip along the edge of the property to keep that invasive vegetation out of the
Okay.
replanted areas.
And on the west end, there's a little right-of-way there, a little road, so you don't need one there, but how about on the north end of that? Is that a continuous road, or is that ends up abutting something else?
It's a access for other properties to the beach, so it will be maintained open.
Okay.
So that kind of acts as a mow strip in itself.
Sure. Okay, and the existing turf is just a Cape Cod lawn with no irrigation, and that's gonna remain, correct?
That's correct.
And you mentioned the foundation plants are gonna be 75% native.
Yes.
How should we address that? I mean, should you come up with a plan, or should you talk to the agent about what you're gonna be planting, or?
We have a draft plan, but we were working with the property owner just to kind of tweak that and didn't want that to hold up the submission on this. We would be happy to submit that plan when it's completed, and it could be written into the orders that it has to be 75% native before a certificate of compliance can be issued.
Okay. Let's see, what else? And David, the driveway material,
I don't think it's been selected yet.
We have a note on our plan that it's to be shell driveway, and we are proposing an apron just to keep the shell from migrating out into the
oh,
roadway.
I see, shell driveway.
Yep.
Sorry.
Okay, that's all I had, thank you. I think it's a great project. Remove a lot of the invasives and keep it natural, and
Yeah.
wildflower meadow and the fescue clover lawn, the whole thing without irrigation. Perfect, thank
It's
you.
like it's like a model. Can we use you as a model plan?
Oh, wait a minute,
Oh, I'm sorry.
I haven't ripped it apart.
Bob has,
Hang on.
I take that back.
And I'm not going to rip it apart. I do have, I want to ask you, Teresa, though, about, in your notes, and we've talked about it, you say no more than 25% of the total foundation / garden planting within jurisdictional will be
In the outer.
non-native. But half of the house is in the NDZ and half of it isn't. So does that mean that if I accept that statement, that would mean that some of the ornamentals in the NDZ would be non-native?
We could certainly, because that policy isn't fully clear yet, so maybe we can flesh that out, because we're going.
I think that policy has
Well,
been
the
clear for a long
25,
time.
I thought the 25% non-native was the policy overall within jurisdictional areas. And then I just heard you mention 50% within the 50 to 100 and something within the NDZ.
Part of the confusion is that you're actually pulling numbers out of the proposed regulations, which is
Yeah.
actually on this agenda at the end.
Okay,
Stay tuned. But it's always been the case that within the NDZ, we want natives.
okay.
So is the intent to put non-natives in the NDZ?
No, so we would certainly can design this so that everything within the NDZ is 100% native, and non-native would be if, for instance, the homeowner wanted to put a hydrangea or something, it would be outside of the
Don't say
50-foot
that.
buffer. I'm not saying that this particular homeowner is interested in hydrangeas, she's not, but that's often a request that we receive, so that we would propose to plant those, for instance, by the front door outside of the NDZ, where somebody could enjoy them without having to, and where they could be maintained properly.
Okay, so we have an agreement that plants in the NDZ,
Within
even
the
if they're
NDZ would
foundation
be-
plants.
Yes, and I'd be
will-
happy to make an adjustment to that note.
Yeah, will be
Native,
straight native.
yes. Straight native species.
My new kick. All right, good, thank you. I just, so, yeah, aside from that, now, I came in here thinking, there were parts of the alternatives analysis that I couldn't agree with, and, I mean, the views there are spectacular. And if you pull the house back, they would still be spectacular. Right?
They start diminishing significantly as you pull the house back.
Well, it depends on your definition of significant. To my eyes, they're still spectacular. So, but whenever you now demonstrate, I think, that the footprint of the existing dwelling is being honored, still hard for me to tell, but I'm having to almost sort of take your word for it, because I can't pick it out myself from the site plan. Then that argument is diminished on my part. So anyway, I wish that were clearer.
Okay.
I wish I had more confidence that that was actually what was happening. But other than that, I mean, Teresa, you've learned what we like.
Mm-hmm.
You know that it's all fescue lawn, right, on the property?
Exactly. This will be a microclover fescue
I mean,
lawn,
but
either
there's-
sod or hydroseed. I don't think that decision has been made
Yeah,
yet.
but my point is, there's no non-native lawn on the property.
There is no non-native lawn on this
Or
property.
will be, shall I say.
No,
You've got your mow strips on both sides, basically,
correct.
so it's protected, and, yeah, there's a lot to like about it. I'm almost as enthusiastic as Bob is. But, Yeah, I guess I'm good. Anybody else?
Timing.
Timing?
Yeah, so you're scheduled for ZBA on July 27th?
I think that's the date, yeah.
Okay. Do you need historic approval for this?
I don't know.
It's a close call. I don't know. I couldn't figure it out.
Yeah,
Historic always gets overlooked.
And they don't like it one bit.
They don't like it. They don't like it.
$75 years is this year.
Is this year?
Yeah,
That's what I-
so it's a judgment call by the folks upstairs, so.
Folks upstairs, meaning,
Pardon me?
by folks upstairs, what do you,
Be the building
Building
commissioner and central permitting.
might it be worth checking with them?
Pardon me?
Oh, they'll check.
Might it be worth checking?
Yes.
Okay. So, and you have no zoning issue. I did have one more question. You said no trees are coming out, but none are going in, right?
Would be a very hard site to get trees established. If you see other trees that are located within the area, they're very wind pruned and salt pruned. So getting new trees established will be difficult.
Even between the house and the road?
So I do see, and I apologize because they're not labeled. We have a tree going in the driveway circle and a tree going in just to the south of the house, but they are not labeled, and I apologize. I don't recall what species they are, but I will make sure that those two are labeled and added. So they are somewhat protected. The trees certainly between the house and the roadway within the driveway circle, which is also within the 100-foot buffer, will be native, and it certainly is protected enough to survive there.
Yay, two trees.
Yes.
All right,
There, now it's a perfect plan.
now it's perfect, yeah. All right, so where are we with,
So we're waiting till after.
should we wait for
Since
orders? or-
the zoning board's not till the end of July,
Oh, that's right, you do need zoning, and you need it, yeah, okay, that's
well,
end
we
of
do
June.
need zoning, yes.
I thought it was at the end of June.
So I don't think there's any major
July.
revisions, so August 1st, or the first meeting in August? First meeting in August,
Oh.
9th.
9th of August? Yeah, no problem.
Just had a quick comment, Teresa. Could you put could you identify that mow strip on the east side as well, since you're going to change the plan?
Yeah, there
Plan
is
note.
a very teeny little note that's probably hard to read that says 4-foot mow
Oh, I
path,
see
but
it
we'll
now.
make sure we'll make sure that's more clear.
I need my glasses for that one.
Yep. I wouldn't be able to read it without my glasses, so.
Okay,
Okay.
so I think we're all set. I'll make a motion that we continue 58 Whistler Lane to August 9th, 2023.
Gordon, second.
Call vote, Mary.
Aye.
Bob.
Aye.
Janet.
Aye.
Elise.
Aye.
Karen.
Aye.
And I vote aye.
Thank you.
thank you.
See you then.
I'm back again, hopefully for good. 47 Hallway Street, Bill and April McEntee, map 17C, parcel 2351, SE 103637, proposed addition to dwelling.
Good afternoon, everyone. If you can hear me, I am Brad Malo from Coastal Engineering Company.
Yes.
Do you hear me okay?
Yep.
Thank you. John Barker from Polhemus, Savory, and De Silva, I believe, is in the audience. He's the project architect.
Yes.
So at the conclusion of this, either of us could answer any potential questions that you may have. The existing property is developed with a single-family residence. It is a historic home constructed in the late 1800s. And to the north of the property, there's an isolated vegetated wetland. It's been delineated. And to the south of the property, on the opposite side of Hallway Street, is a coastal bank, by definition, based on the landform. The proposed addition is to the north side of the house, immediately adjacent to the driveway. And the footprint of the addition is approximately 5 feet by 15 feet. And it is exactly in a location of where there's existing deck with an enclosed base to that deck. So the proposed addition, which would involve a storage area at grade, is to occupy the same footprint as that quadrant of the existing deck system. There is an existing rinse station that is on the deck itself in that easterly side of the deck, and that would be proposed to be relocated to the westerly side of the deck, still on the deck level. As part of this project is also a proposal to resurface the decking and install a cable rail system around the deck area. It's noted in our package. We've identified the various resource areas and performance standards narrative. We've also included in our package a variance request. A part of the addition is actually within an AE flood zone by elevation, and the addition is proposed to be outfitted with flood vents. There's no change in the vegetative coverage out on the site. We're replacing structure with structure, as I said, in the area of the footprint. So there is no coverage change to the site within the 0 to 50, nor within the 50 to 100. The roof runoff for the proposed addition would be handled with downspouts and piped to the existing roof runoff system for the existing dwelling. There's no grade changes proposed, and we have, you will note, a fairly confined work limit area that comes off of the front of the garage, parallel to the addition, and along to the westerly side of the property. That's an overview of the project, and if you have any particular questions from either Mr. Barker or myself, we'd be glad to answer them. Oh, if I could follow up, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, that we have, I am told that we have been before the Historic District Commission and received approval from them, that through Mike Ford. And Mr. Ford is also in the process of preparing the application for Zoning Board of Appeals. I do not believe that we have a date certain for the Zoning Board of Appeals at this time.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody have any questions? This is a fairly straightforward project. Actually, I have to be honest with you, I thought it could have been handled with an RDA.
I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman.
It's just as complex.
So anyway, questions from anybody?
Yeah, I have one question. So you're waiting on a letter from National Heritage Endangered Species?
That's correct.
Okay, so
That's correct.
anything that comes in from them will be incorporated into the order?
Yes.
Okay. And that'll happen before you go to zoning, since you don't have a date yet, so.
I would expect that to be the case, yes.
Okay.
I checked just before we came online today, but we would not expect to hear from Natural Heritage for another week or two, perhaps,
Okay.
based on their current streamline.
Oh, I know, I had a question. You have requested a variance, citing work that's happening within the NDZ, and I can't figure out where that would be. As I look at the site plan, I don't see anything happening within the NDZ.
I think you're right.
Yeah, we'll ignore the crest for variance.
Okay, we'll just take
Okay,
that out then. And good, we don't have to write one.
Appreciate that.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I was gonna make a similar comment. Anyone else?
I got a couple of questions. So you're going to be adding this addition. What about drainage for the addition? Do you have a dry well on that end?
Yes, there's an existing roof drainage system, and we'd be connecting to that existing structure. And the limited 80, 85, 87 square feet or so is de minimis to that existing system. So it would be contained within the
Okay, that
driveway.
would be able to handle the roof runoff then?
Yes, I would expect so, yes.
Okay, and where the new rinse station is going to be relocated, what's underneath the deck to handle any runoff from that?
Perhaps John could actually answer that, because if you've seen any photographs or if you've been to the site, you can see that the underside of the deck area is actually enclosed with panels. But I am not certain if that's allowed to drip through on its present condition, or maybe John could comment on that.
Currently, it does drip through the deck onto grade, and in the proposed new location, that would remain the condition.
So there's no concrete slab or anything underneath there?
No.
Is there any gravel or crushed
I
stone?
believe there is some gravel or crushed stone underneath the deck.
Is there any way to have access so that you can bring some crushed stone in there?
Yes, we are proposing a new access panel to have access underneath that deck, so we can definitely make provisions to add gravel or crushed stone.
Okay, I don't know if you'd have to remove any soil at all, but
Perhaps, if necessary, that can absolutely be accommodated.
yeah, I would say maybe if you went down 4 to 6 inches or so and added some stone.
Sure.
That's all I had, thank you.
I have a follow-up.
Okay.
I have a follow-up on that. So on the site plan, pointing to the proposed, it says proposed addition slab on grade. Is there going to be a concrete slab under this addition, or is it going to be?
So, yes, the addition will have a frost wall and a slab in the basement of the addition. Because of the FEMA regulation, that slab is at grade to the adjacent driveway to the east. So it is only a crawl space, but the slab is technically at grade level to the adjacent grade. The house is elevated approximately 5 feet to clear the FEMA regulations.
Okay.
But that slab does not continue under the deck. That is just at the addition of the
Just on the
structure
addition.
of the house.
And there's currently no slab there right now. It's just.
Correct.
I
Right
couldn't
now
tell what was
it's
behind the
deck.
panels. Okay. Okay.
All right. Nothing else from anyone? This looks straightforward. It's hard to think of what conditions to put on it, but we'll come up with some.
Whatever National Heritage wants.
Yeah. So we're waiting, though. We have to continue until a date uncertain, which we can't do, so.
I believe we're penciled in for July 13th for zoning,
Okay.
but I
So-
would like to confirm with Attorney Ford.
Oh. Is Attorney Ford with us?
Not today.
He
no.
is not. If Mr. Chairman, if you would see fit to continue it to the first meeting after that ZBA
Yeah.
date, then at worst, we'd be glad to request an additional continuance
Right.
of the commission if that didn't pan out.
Yeah, so that would be July 26th.
Yep.
Right.
Sounds good.
Yeah, all right. We haven't asked for anything changed here, so we're just waiting on zoning, and that's about it.
Okay, I'll move that we continue 47 Hallway Street to July 26, 2023.
Gordon, second.
Roll call vote, Mary?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Janet?
Aye.
Elise?
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
And I vote aye. See you then.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
The next hearing is for 89 Taylor's Pond Road, William T. and Karen L. Cuscores, trustees, 89 Taylor's Pond Road Realty Trust, map 5C, parcel 29B, PT 19, SE 10 3636. Proposed deck expansion and hardscaping, removal of invasive vegetation, and restoration of native species.
Hi, this is Stephanie Sequin. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Stephanie Sequin with Ryder and Wilcox. I'm representing William and Karen Cuscores, and also with me or with you is Teresa Sprague from Blue Flax Design. This is a 80,000 square foot lot overlooking a salt marsh. The lower part of the property falls within land subject to coastal storm flowage. It's an A zone, elevation 12, and based on the topography at the flood zone, the 12-foot contour is the top of the coastal bank. There is an existing dwelling located for the most part between the 50 and 100-foot buffer to the bank. It's 2 stories with a walkout basement. On the first floor level, there's a screen porch and a small deck adjoining it that's elevated above the walkout level below. And underneath that is a brick patio. There's the other hardscaping consists of retaining walls and stepping stone paths that provide access around the building. What's being proposed, the existing deck is fairly small, not really very functional. So what's being proposed is to remove that deck and replace it with a larger deck. And also there's a back stoop next to the garage that they would also like to expand that, just make it a little bit bigger. Both the deck and the stoop will be constructed on posts, elevated above grade. The existing patio that's located below the proposed deck, we're proposing to expand that. That expansion will be away from the resource area, going back toward the building, not removing any natural vegetation in that proposed location. When the new deck is constructed, they'll realign the stepping stone path so that it goes around that proposed deck post. My cat has joined me. The proposed change in coverage with these improvements result in an increase of 94 square feet of deck and patio in the 0 to 50-foot buffer. I was rereading my narrative, and in the narrative I described the increase in coverage as building and hardscaping, but it's deck, just to be clear. And then in the 50 to 100-foot buffer, we have an increase of 433 square feet between the expanded deck and patio. So based on those numbers, I calculate 621 square feet of mitigation required. As what's being proposed for mitigation, Blue Flax has prepared a very extensive land management plan, over 9,000 square feet of invasive removal and restoration with native plants. So I think we're, going above and beyond what the numbers say is required. Before I turn it over to Teresa, just very quickly, between the narrative and the construction notes on the site plan, we're showing a limit of work around the proposed deck and expanded patio, specifying a silt fence to be installed along the limit of work and to remain throughout construction. A dumpster will be placed in the driveway, which is located outside of the buffer. All demolition debris will be placed inside in the dumpster or directly into trucks. The expanded patio will be masonry on a dry laid base, so it will remain pervious. I think that's it, and I'd be happy to answer any questions, or we can move on to Teresa, and she can go through the land management plan.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, why don't we go ahead and just hear it all?
Sure. I'll just quickly review the existing conditions on the site. There's one other part to this, our proposed plan, that Stephanie did not mention, which is to get an existing vista corridor that has been managed historically by previous owners on a plan of record, so that it is, I guess, memorialized with the Conservation Commission. So that's one more added piece of our goals of this plan. In general, so the property abuts a salt marsh to the south, contains coastal bank between the salt marsh and existing dwelling. Vegetation on the property consistent with native coastal shrub woodland community. We have a significant stands of pitch pine, oak, black huckleberry, northern bayberry, and arrowwood viburnum, which are located throughout the property. But in addition to that, we have invasive species, including shrub honeysuckle, cypress spurge, porcelainberry, and Asiatic bittersweet, all found in various density throughout the property. There is a significant amount of greenbrier as well as poison ivy, which are native but aggressive vines, so ones that we would want to look at as we're restoring this area. The commission may recall that there is already a restoration underway on this property. To the south, the portion of the property had been cut without a permit by an abutter for views. So we're currently in the process. We've done our invasive species removal and removed debris, allowed a lot of that vegetation to regenerate, and we will be planting that area this spring as per the approved plan for that area. So in this plan, we're proposing to remove 9,220 square feet of invasive species throughout the entire property. This invasive species is at a density of 80 to 90% on the eastern side of the property, southeastern side of the property, and then it's found sporadically throughout the rest of the property. Within the proposed view area, which you see outlined in red on our plan, and there's a photograph, I think a really great photograph on page 3 of this management area. There are several cut and damaged oaks in this area that we would be proposing to cut and remove, and then infill this area with shrubs that will not require pruning for future vista management. In total, we're proposing 274 shrubs, including a mix of black chokeberry, Clothyra alnifolia, summer sweet fern, winterberry, northern bayberry, fragrant sumac, low bush blueberry, and viburnum trilobum, American cranberry bush. And these shrubs are located throughout the property. I think I'm going to leave it there and answer any questions. In the area that we're showing on our plan, there's in the south west, or actually directly south of the structure, there's an area we're showing in a green hatch. That area is 5 to 10% invaded. It's more lightly invaded. We would propose to selectively remove the invasive vegetation from that area and then just allow it to regenerate. As we get into the areas that are shaded in the greenish yellow color on our plan, we go, like I said, from 80 to 90% invaded on the the eastern portion of the property, and slightly less as we move west, mainly because that area has been regularly maintained. Our goal is, once we remove the invasive vegetation, plant the vista corridor, and manage that no more management will occur within that 50-foot buffer zone. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Teresa. Could you, I actually asked for a copy of the previous restoration order. I don't have it. Can you summarize the provisions therein?
Yes, so the area to the south, several trees, including oak and pitch pine, had been cut in that area, not by these property owners. I think this violation was discovered when the Coscorises were purchasing the property. And it was at that time brought to the attention of the commission. And so part of that was, we went in and did a stump count, we saw what was regenerating. We've got a significant amount of oak regenerating, and actually more pitch pine than I had originally imagined regenerating in that area. We did manage for invasive vegetation, because once an area like that is disturbed, it does quickly infill, especially with the invasive pressure around it. When the area was cut, I'm not sure who did the work, I'm not privy to any of that. All of the debris was stacked very neatly in wood piles around the property. So we went in and removed most of those and then spread some of that debris on the ground to allow it to just naturally improve the soils as it biodegrades. So we're at the point now where we're replanting trees and shrubs, and we're really just infilling areas that have not regenerated. For the most part, though, we've got really great native grasses. Oaks are regenerating beautifully. We have pitch pine regeneration in that area, and a significant amount of bayberry regenerating in that area as well.
Is the pointer up there?
Yes.
I was just wondering if you could sort of outline that area
Yes.
on this map.
If I can figure out how to work it. Do I press the green button? There we go. It's this area here to the south.
Oh.
So there is an abutter that has a house back here, and so this cutting, frankly, when you're standing up here, you really can't see. It's very hard to see that this part of the property is that this is part of this property. When the violation first occurred, and I was asked to go out and look at the violation, I came in and parked in the driveway, walked around the house, and frankly could not find it. I had to bushwhack my way through the poison ivy and the invasive vegetation to find this area down here. With the invasive removal and the removal of all the debris, we have opened this up a little bit more, just so we could get access to this area for the restoration. But we know that once this restoration is completed, this area is very quickly going to infill. The property owners have the Coscoruses this area is just to be allowed to renaturalize, and then the only management area would be within the view corridor that we're proposing, which has been historically managed for
So
views.
there is no overlap between the two areas?
There's no overlap between the two areas on this plan, no.
Okay.
The only area, I guess, that would slightly overlap is this area that's very heavily invaded, was the area that we used to access this southern portion of the property.
Yeah, my memory of all this had gone fuzzy. So
I remember bushwhacking through all that poison ivy trying to find this site. It was very hard to find.
Yes.
I ended up having to walk the path down along Taylor's Pond and then come up that way.
And then come back up the other end. And
That
that
was the only
path is no longer being used or managed, so this existing path has been completely refilled in. So the goal is that there's no access to this portion of the property once the restoration is complete.
Can I follow up with a question?
Sure.
So but it borders the area that you have designated as 5 to 10% invaded, that will be, so you'll make sure that the invasives in that area
Correct.
do not move into the restoration area.
That's the goal, yes.
Okay, that would be great.
Yep.
All right, you also, I think, alluded or said that the view corridor shown on your map is on record as approved?
No, it is not, and so
Not.
that's why we're that's
I
why
see.
the Coscoruses, as the new property owners, wanted to get that on a plan of record so that they could manage the vista that they currently have and they had when they purchased the property. It was through our research that we realized that there had never been an order of conditions or any permit issued for managing, that we could find for managing this vista corridor that had obviously been managed for a number of years.
Okay. I'm just going to keep talking since so it's a little unclear to me the number of trees that are being removed as part of this project, if any.
I was looking at the plan notes for that, and I have to apologize because we have been working on this project with the Coscoruses for a couple of years, and so it's just getting before you now, and I had to really kind of dig back through. So we have a note that says cut and remove damaged oaks. We don't have an exact count on that, so I can get an exact count, or I don't have it in my notes right here. There are several, and they're mainly at the edge of the property. So if you're looking at the image or the photograph on page 3 of our land management plan, you can see that's standing on the patio, looking out towards the view. The historically managed view area. And at the edge, not quite at the edge of the marsh, but as you get down towards the pathway, there are a number of oak trees that have just been cut and cut and cut, and that are just, as we've seen in the past, are in really poor condition. So we're proposing to remove those and plant those with shrubs that won't continue to grow up into the view corridor.
Okay. So we'll get that number.
I can get that number for
Yeah,
you,
and
yes.
the, the species, of course.
Yes.
But by and large, the trees that would be coming out would be height managed, previously height managed trees.
That's correct. So there've been trees that have been topped, basically.
Topped,
So when you
yes,
look at that image, you can see that there have been pitch pines that have been limbed up over time, and those are to remain. Nothing is to change there. It's just the trees that have been topped and suppressed that we're proposing to remove, allow them to replant with shrubs that'd be allowed to reach mature size, so that we're maintaining what's in this photograph here that we have before you, versus going, and without having to go in there and constantly top these trees to keep them low.
Yeah, and we've actually talked, in previous projects about that strategy, and this commission is sort of on board with that, within reason, of course.
Of course, yes,
So-
yes. Only within the proposed Vista area. So no other tree management is proposed throughout the property. This is a very well canopied site.
So the view corridor has trees in it.
It does.
So what would a view corridor allow or prohibit in this case?
So basically, we're looking, we're basically looking between the canopies. So we'll have a shrub layer that will remain low, and then the canopy layer's high, and they're really just getting views in between these trees. I mean, it's really a stunning vista, and I think with the trees, it actually makes it a little bit more, a little more attractive.
Yeah, actually, I'm not sure that I saw this picture, so I'll go rummage around. There's a bunch of files you guys submitted.
Yeah.
so-
It's in the land management.
It's in the land management plan.
It's,
Page 3 of the
page
land.
3 in the land management plan.
Oh, down at the, okay, all right, there we are, got it. Oh, yeah, I actually now that I remember, I took a picture, that very picture, right?
Hey.
I have that picture, okay. My own camera. Now I get it. So, yeah, those trees aren't going to be,
No, those trees are
Touched.
going to remain, exactly. It's just removing the invasive vegetation from the area, and then those previously topped oaks that are just keep resprouting back and need to be continuously topped to maintain that view. We just want to get those out of there, plant this with shrubs that don't require continuous pruning, just to maintain the view that we're currently seeing.
yeah, so, let's say the property changed hands, whatever, and they say, oh, we have a view corridor that stretches
Right.
is very wide, view corridor in my view. And I'm a little worried about it because, it can be interpreted as allowing them to cut anything they want in that view. So
Yeah.
I'm a little nervous about granting a view corridor that, to my eyes, is quite extensive, especially where there are tall trees already there. I don't know exactly how to deal with that, but anyway, that is a concern that I would like to somehow grapple with. The other issue is I do not believe, maybe this is more for Stephanie, I don't think there was an alternatives analysis submitted for the increase in the NDZ. If I'm not mistaken.
Let's see. I did request a variance. I don't know if I did submit an alternatives analysis. I was kind of hoping the significant invasive management mitigation would be adequate to justify where I think we're proposing some modest expansion within the no disturb zone.
Yeah, and, we've had requests before where there's expanded hardscape and coverage in a resource area in exchange for copious amounts of mitigation, and in many cases, we go for it. And in this particular case, though, it's within the it's in the NDZ, and B, it's, it's not, it is to expand an existing deck And so it doesn't seem to me to be a request that is all that compelling. It's just a bigger deck. And it's increased coverage in the NDZ. So that, I am struggling with that as well.
If I can just
Go ahead.
break down where that additional coverage is coming from, 11 square feet is the deck. And that deck is elevated well above the ground. So, I don't see as that elevated, that 11 square feet of elevated deck as having any sort of adverse impact on the resource area or the NDZ. The other 83 square feet within the NDZ is the expanded brick patio. But yes, we are expanding the deck, but it's above grade, allowing, vegetation beneath it. And we're only talking about 11 square feet.
I get it about the deck. I don't get it about the patio. So,
if I could speak.
Sure.
It just explains. So right now, the existing brick patio has a set of timber stairs that are inset into it. So what we're proposing to do is infill that area and then just move that step just off to the east, just because it breaks up that patio. So we're basically, the goal of all of this was just to kind of square everything off. The existing deck is, as Stephanie pointed out, too small to be functional or useful for the family. So they were proposing to square that deck off, and that 11 square feet of that, because we're trying to square it off, pokes into the NDZ. The brick patio, the existing brick patio, we're proposing just to relocate the timber steps. So we're infilling that patio, portion of the patio, and then relocating the timber steps just to the east of that. So that would lead to the one access pathway that they have leading down to the trail system that runs along the edge of the marsh. And then there is, in the corner of the house, just to the east of the brick patio and on the east side of the house, there is a small portion of patio. They were just trying to connect that brick patio to that corner of the house there. So I know that's a total, I'm not sure exactly how many square feet that little extension ends up with in the NDZ, but that's the goal of the project overall.
yeah, understood. So anyway, for me, it's a big property and it's an incursion in the NDZ that seems to be discretionary. And that's just the way I'm looking at it right now. So also you need zoning, right? You have.
Yes. I spoke with Jamie Norcross yesterday. He was filling out the application. He expected to have it filed either yesterday or today. I have not had a chance to contact him. I don't know if maybe Nikki heard whether or not that had been filed, but it does require zoning. And if it hasn't been filed, it will be shortly.
Yeah, it looks like it has not been filed as of yesterday, I guess. Okay, so I'm gonna.
Yeah, I haven't heard from Sarah about this one yet.
All right, but just that's fine. We'll deal with that later. So that's enough of my commentary for the moment. Anybody else?
I'll just follow up on Bob's question. So Stephanie, do you know offhand the size of the existing deck?
Let's see. I do not. I did not break that down separately from the building.
I was just curious because looking at it on site and looking at the plan, I can be, it is not particularly usable in its current size, and I think that it would be an important data point to be able to point to that what the existing square footage is and what's being proposed, to counter Bob's point about how discretionary the incursion into the NDZ actually is. The existing deck, I'll point out, is not in the NDZ, it's in the outer aura. But I see where only that one corner of what is proposed crosses over the NDZ line. I guess I wonder why. You know, it's just that one little 11 square feet. Why, you know, would it not have been better to have kept it behind there altogether? And that would have alleviated the need for the, well, you still need a variance, I guess, for patio.
Still for the patio.
Yeah, never mind. But I would like to be able to compare what the existing size of the deck and the total of the proposed deck is.
Okay,
Would
I
be
just,
helpful.
just scaling off the plan, it's 10 feet by 14 feet. And currently it's got the corners angled, so it's not a full 10 by 14.
Right.
I think the biggest thing is, yes, the depth from the wall of the building out to the far edge of the deck is, you know, just, it's not very deep. So, and then just squaring off the corner of the proposed deck versus, I suppose we could angle that at a 45, similar to what it is now, but it just, again, thinking this is up off the ground, we're not eliminating natural space underneath it. It's still, you know, pervious underneath that 11 square feet of deck.
Right, right. So how high above grade is it proposed to be?
Well, at the first floor level, so I would guess 6 to 8 feet above grade.
And what's going to be below it?
I don't, just natural ground. I suppose there could be plantings underneath it.
We always struggle with that, trying to figure out what kinds of plants can grow well under a deck. We've allowed it sometimes. And hold on, we have our resident expert here.
It's quite shady because it is really well canopied. There's a lot of canopy trees hanging over this, so it would be difficult. We may be able to get some ferns to grow underneath the deck.
Is it wet enough for ferns?
Well, I mean, certainly there are ferns that will grow dry shade, ferns that would grow into dry shade. Maybe something like Carex pennsylvanica, Pennsylvania sedge, we could get under the edges of the deck. Overall, it would likely end up being some kind of a gravel pea stone underneath the deck.
Well, that's why I'm trying to understand the nature of the slope there and whether having it at there's any risk of erosion, and whether it'd be better to put some kind of crushed stone in that area to allow for percolation without erosion.
We can certainly get that information.
Okay, and you're going to tell us how many trees. I think that's it. That's all I have for now. Thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Got a couple of questions. So where the proposed deck expansion is, Teresa, there are some natives in that area. There's some clethra, bayberry, I think, and some sumac. Did you see all that in that area?
Yes.
Can that be transplanted out?
It can be transplanted. Yes.
Okay.
We had a note to that effect, but maybe not.
That is a slope right now. How about putting some kind of a retaining wall on the base, on the bottom side of that, just to eliminate, you know, to kind of ease the slope on that, maybe, and then put the stone in?
Mm-hmm. I can certainly get out there and look at that.
Maybe some fern on the edge like you suggested.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so a retaining wall underneath the deck so that we're bringing that, because it does slope. I guess it's somewhat steep as it slopes down towards the path. Okay.
And let's see. When you talk about the oaks that are being topped right now, you say on the plan notes that you want to flush cut those and remove them. Wouldn't you just flush cut and treat them?
We would. Flush, cut, and treat is what it should say, correct. Yes, we would not be removing root systems. There would be nothing grubbed out, no grinding, stump grinding, or anything like that.
Okay. And then considering the, the amount of invasive removal and the new planting, I think it's a win-win. I know there's some incursion in the NDZ, but I would overlook that myself. But and then you have the stairs coming off of the brick patio, and that's minor in my view. And then the flagstone or the slate patio, that would be expanded, correct?
Yes, that's correct. I think we're showing it. It appears to be flagstone or slate. It may just be a brick extension. That hasn't been decided. But it would be dry laid, so permeable.
Okay. Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
I did. Did I get yours, or you have any?
No, I think he's got it.
Karen, you have anything on this?
I do not. Some of my concerns have already been addressed.
Okay. So, anybody concerned about the expansion in the NDZ other than me? Nobody. Okay. Outvoted. The view corridor question. If you've got height managed vegetation everywhere there and trees that looks like they've been limbed up already.
Correct.
Why do you need a view corridor?
Well, I think, honestly, just because it's been managed historically, we felt that we should bring it before you and get
it legitimized?
Yes, get it legitimized. And as part of that, proposing to remove the vegetation that's been topped. So there's no intention to do anything with the trees as they're standing, the canopy trees as they're standing. It's really the topped trees that were cut over time and that have continuously been cut that are just in really poor shape. And then to, yes, get it legitimized, get it before you. The Koskorises recognized that this was not a permitted view corridor, that they inherited this when they purchased the property, and they just wanted to be above board with the commission.
I get the rationale. Like, I don't know how we can, but what I would like to see is somehow conditioning the view corridor.
Yeah.
I don't know how you do that.
We have extensive conditions for view corridors in our template that, they're basically aimed at tree management, so that they allow selective pruning with the approval of the agent. They don't
in the
allow
view corridor that you still can't cut
You can't just,
anything.
no, information has to be given to the agent about what you plan to do. You have to show what limbs you want to take.
So what's the point of a view corridor?
Well, you are allowed to selectively cut here and there to allow for a filtered view.
All right. So we already have conditions.
Yep.
As long as the applicants know that they still can't touch anything.
Absolutely, and the goal is to not touch anything once this is complete. But if, let's say, in the future, they had to come back, then the commission could look and say, oh, we have approved a view corridor in the past, and, we can allow some minor pruning, either through an RDA or some other, form of filing. I don't think you allow vista pruning in your ARs as an AR any longer, but really that's the goal of that, is just to get something on a plan of record so that the commission can look back and say, we have recognized that this has been managed as a vista corridor in the past.
Yeah, I think it also says no property line to property line.
It does, and so I do want to point out, this is almost a 2-acre property. So it's just under 80,000 square feet, and more than half of this property is in a completely naturalized state. So entirely, that whole southern portion of the property is in an entirely naturalized state with this proposed restoration, and then the restoration that was undertaken with the previous violation completed by the abutter. This is really a fully restored property, and only the northern portion of the property is actively used as part of the dwelling and recreation area. So I think that most of this property is in a protected, naturalized state, that I think it really enhances the protection.
Or at least it will be whenever you're done with it.
Exactly, yes.
So this is Nikki. So I suggest just calling it a view window instead of like a vista prune or a view corridor, because those terms kind of
Yeah,
bring
they're-
up,
they're
you
red
know,
flag
like a
terms,
clear
yeah,
cutting
yeah.
giant swath from the house, like a, you know, like the triangle type section that people usually propose. So if we call it a view window, that kind of implies that you get to see some of the water from above or below, but you don't get to clear cut.
Gotcha. Yeah, we can change that language, and certainly, I've always understood Vista management and Vista corridors to be some thinning, some removing of limbs within, you know, no more than a third of the canopy being removed, but in this case, we're not proposing to remove any canopy at
Right,
all, so.
right. 'Cause it's already been removed.
Yeah, it has. It has. And the trees are actually they're in decent health, they're in good shape, so,
Yeah,
yeah.
right, okay.
One last item. Person who knows this stuff and I don't, because when I was Googling the hummingbird clethra in the first matter that we dealt with, I noticed that it's also referred to as clethra alnifolia, which is what's listed here.
It is.
To go into the NDZ. So, is it a cultivar or is it a straight native?
No, so there are cultivars of clethra. Hummingbird is one, 16 Candles is another, Ruby Spice is another. So those are three cultivars, the clethra alnifolia. They're just bred for Ruby Spice. It has a pink flower. Hummingbird and 16 Candles tend to stay a little bit lower and mound out versus get taller. And so they're native species, but they're just bred for these certain traits.
They're native cultivars, as we're learning.
Nativars,
And
many
summer
people call
sweet
them.
is not.
Summer sweet, or clethra alnifolia is a straight species.
Okay, now
Yes.
I'm getting there.
Yep.
This is,
You're gonna
this
be
is
dangerous.
complicated. No, I don't know anything about
I
this
don't know of
stuff.
any in-depth studies that have been done on clethra and how, for instance, native insects react to a 16 Candles or a hummingbird versus a straight species clethra. I know it's being undertaken by many different people, including the Mount Cuba Center. They've done some extensive studies they've got multiple studies happening right now on nativars to see how
Nativars,
pollinators interact with them, and it's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
This is all
fantastic
for-
website if you.
It's nice to know that it's a large unknown area for everybody,
Yes.
not just us.
Yes, and it's really interesting, in some cases, our native phlox, for instance, they've found that some cultivars of native phlox are actually more attractive to pollinators than the straight Phlox paniculata. So Gina is one that's being touted as a fantastic pollinator plant species. And cultivars are generally stumbled upon because somebody found a plant that had this sort of genetic anomaly and they clone it.
Right.
So that's the only thing is biodiversity.
Is it native or isn't it at that point? Yeah.
Oh, boy, Bob, that's the million-dollar
The debate rages
question.
on, yeah. Yeah, it's impossible to do the research on all these plants and say, oh, do more bees go to this one than that one or not?
They are really studying
No one
that,
will
though.
fund that research. You
Yeah,
know, it's just, there are too
well,
many
but
species.
it is actually being funded, like Mount Cuba Center is
On a small,
On a- yeah.
relatively small scale,
Yeah.
but not enough that you can ever catch up
Yeah.
with all the species that we deal with.
right. I
But
mean, and
anyway.
we don't even want to get into local genotypes.
Well, yeah,
Because
yes, we do.
We're really opening a can of worms
We
there,
certainly
so,
are. We
Yeah.
certainly are.
I mean, I would say what's best is in a situation like this, when there's native vegetation existing, to promote it, to allow it to remain. In cases where we're doing invasive species management, where we've got invasive vegetation mixed with native vegetation, our goal is to edit out the invasive vegetation and let the existing native vegetation infill back in
Yeah.
wherever possible.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so where are we, what did we ask for?
We need zoning and the number and size of the damaged oaks that are coming out.
Yes, I have a list of, we're going to explore the retaining wall underneath the deck. We're going to get we've got the square footage, but we'll make sure that that's written on the plan of the existing deck. And then I wanted to get a number of the square foot of the total area that we're proposing to manage versus the total square footage on the property, just so you had that to compare. And changing the note to a view window. And transplanting the existing clethra bayberry and sumac that's underneath the proposed deck area.
But I guess you agree with Stephanie that an alternatives analysis is not necessary here.
I'm going to leave that to Stephanie because I didn't file the notice on this one, so.
I mean, technically it is. It's part of the NOI process. If if an EZ is altered, you need an alternatives analysis. So
I think we could include an alternatives analysis here. And we can certainly, that one area of expansion of the patio within the 50-foot buffer is something I'll be willing to go back and speak with the Coscorases about and see if that is absolutely necessary to them. I really feel that that small sliver of deck just helps square that deck
for the
off.
record, I'm not worried about the deck.
Oh, okay.
I'm just not worried about the deck. I am worried about the patio.
The patio. So I am willing to go back and have that discussion with the Coscorases and see if we can make some revisions to that as well.
Okay, so
Okay.
you need zoning. Has not filed with zoning, so you need to continue it to some point in the future and see where we are.
Could I suggest, I think it would make sense to come back to you with this additional information before zoning. So I'm wondering, maybe July 12th, is that a meeting date for you?
It is.
So I think maybe that would give Teresa and I enough time to gather this additional information, and I'm guessing will probably be before the zoning date.
Yeah, but
Does that make sense?
would you assume that zoning is not going to have much issue with? I don't know.
You never know.
You never know. Never mind, I withdraw the question. I withdraw it. So, yeah, we can do that, and if we had to continue again, then we will.
Okay. And I guess I should ask Teresa, does that date work for you, July 12th?
Yes, absolutely, we can make that work. Yep.
All right,
I just have a couple more things.
couple more.
Okay.
Quick. I walk that path to the beach sometimes at the southern end of that property. And on the other side of the path, who owns that? Because there has been some pruning on that vegetation along the coastal bank.
Oh, I don't know who owns that.
I mean, does your property go all the way to that, the coastal bank, or does it just go to that path?
I believe the center line of the path is the boundary of the Cuscora's property. The owner, I don't know if I can find it on the abutters list.
Well, maybe you can come back with that information.
Marsh Corporation.
Because someone has been illegally pruning, and I don't know who's been doing it, but it's been illegally pruned along that whole edge. So that's a question maybe that you can answer when we come back.
You can take a look and see what you think.
Okay, yeah, I'll take a look. Are you, the plan's no longer up. Are you, Bob, the area on our plan that's within the view corridor, it says center of path and there's a dashed line? Is that the area that you're talking about?
Well, if you go right down to the water, you'll see some plants on the other side of the path.
Okay, on the other side of the trail that runs along the edge of marsh?
Southern end of the path, yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, I'll take a
And
look.
I don't know if those plants there have been pruned, but I know that some other ones have been pruned along that path.
Okay.
And the other thing was you were going to add stone to that area below the deck?
Yes,
And
yep.
add some fern
Yes.
as well?
Yep,
Okay, that's all I have.
got it. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to continue. I'd like to make a motion that we continue 89 Taylor's Pond Road to July 12th, 2023.
Gordon, second.
Roll call vote, Mary?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Janet?
Aye.
Elise?
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
And I vote aye. See
Thank
then.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take a break or not?
My 3:15's not looking so good anymore. No break. We can do it in 10 minutes. No, either way, it doesn't matter.
We have Taylor's Pond, and then we have the regulations and the minutes. That's a fair amount of stuff. Maybe. We've been doing this for 2 hours. Yeah, let's take about a 6 minute, 6.5 minute. But who knows how long these. We like it that way. We like it that way.
It felt weird. It is a little weird, but there's a whole bunch of names on the screen. Going to like the Chatham Orpheum Theater to see a movie on a
They're all playing.
Do you have them tied up outside there, Karen?
Duct tape? Okay, we're back. So Nikki, are you back? Or here?
I'm here, yes.
Did we skip, it was pointed out that on MyTownGov, there's an extra item on the agenda as opposed to the one that I put into Dropbox from MyTownGov. It must have been added, but it's for Locust Lane. Amended order.
Oh, yes, forgot about that. I was supposed to mention that at the beginning, but my phone, or my internet was having problems.
And that was Stephanie Sequin, but she was here and didn't say anything.
Hi, it's Stephanie. I was not at the beginning of the hearing. I was tied up with a seminar, so I was not, was actually kind of wondering whether or not you had taken me at the beginning. So that's why I hung around just to see. But yes, this was added. It wasn't until I saw the agenda a couple days ago and saw that it was not on the agenda when it had been continued to today. Crystal added it, so.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
we are,
most of us didn't know about it. In fact, I don't think any of us knew about it. So,
so we are requesting another extension.
oh, excellent.
Just getting an email. Bill Litchfield emailed me earlier today, and he is expecting an August 10th hearing date. So if we could continue it to whatever your next date is after that.
23rd.
August 23rd.
Okay.
So is this, you're still waiting on zoning? Is that the issue?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
That works.
Do we have to open it and continue it?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
So 41 Locust Lane, Jonathan and Alicia Downs, map 15S, parcel 53, SE 103478, phase 2 of the amendment, construction of an additional 32 feet of catwalk, and the applicant is requesting continuance to 8/23, August 23rd.
I'll move that we continue 41 Locust Lane, the amended order of conditions, until August 23, 2023.
Gordon, second.
Roll call vote. Mary?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Janet?
Aye.
Elise?
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
And just to be clear, Nikki, this is one where we already had the order, the amended order created, but or will we have to create it, or is it already basically ready?
No, so this, because it's phase 2, I believe it's, we heard it said it was okay for an amended order, and now they are actually going to apply for the amended order, and then we
Okay.
approve it.
All
and
we've
then
done
add in
is-
the amended.
All we've done is phase 1.
Yes, I
Okay.
believe so.
I believe.
We did?
Yeah, we went.
This
through
is,
those too.
you're acting on the request for the amended order. You did like phase 1 and 2 at the same hearing.
You know, I think I did the amended order, now that I think about it. I think there is one in
We
existence.
do, draft AOC,
Yeah,
we do have one.
Yeah, I think I already did it, so, but we'll deal with it then. I just couldn't remember exactly where we were.
This is Karen. There is one that's been written.
Yeah,
We just defined
it's
it.
confirmed.
On April
It is
27th.
confirmed.
Okay.
It is written,
Okay.
yeah. All right, so now, with that out of the way,
Did you vote on it? On the continuation?
oh, did we?
yes.
Yes, we did, yes, we did.
We're done.
You did, okay, thank you.
All right, so next, we have 100, a certificate of compliance request for 100 Elizers Lane, Kenneth Stoll, map 10C, parcel B, SE 103253, land management plan. Nick Crawford or Jen, I don't know which one it is, are here to speak to it. So go ahead.
Looks like Nick.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Nick Crawford from Crawford Land Management for the record. We submitted a request letter for certificate of compliance, and it included all of our observations on site. All the plantings did well, and we would just like to request ongoing conditions in order to be able to keep managing the areas invasive free, as there were some that had returned.
All right. I think I should know the answer to this, but Nikki, do you confirm these in all cases, or?
Yes, yeah, I go out on site. Let me just double check the order to see what the ongoing management was. I mean, the view corridor itself is pretty modest. So I'm fine with that. As Nick said, there's what they planted is doing well, but it is coming back with invasives. So let me just double check the order to see if it had ongoing conditions.
Yeah, the area down below in the view corridor itself, all the plantings were doing great, and there's no invasives down there. The area up top, closer to the lawn, that's where a little bit of bittersweet and multiflora rose, I believe, if I remember correctly, was coming back.
All right, this is circa 2018, this project? 17, okay. So this would predate our,
Anyway, and predate the way that we do.
yeah, predate the standard condition that we now include, which is ongoing maintenance of restored areas, unfortunately.
Can you add that to a COC if it wasn't in the original order?
I have before.
You can do that?
Yeah.
I mean, they have to follow by the approved restoration and land management plans. So we can say that, you know, as long as they follow those.
I'm certainly, nobody here would have any problem with that, I think.
Yeah, I'll just put the land management and restoration plan as a reference in the COC. You know, the line that you can add ongoing conditions. But no, I don't see anything that specifically calls out like we do now that they have to be taken care of.
So what was the, Nick, can you just briefly summarize what the project was?
Yeah, the project was, I mean, down in the view corridor area were, gosh, hold on, I do have the plan up on my computer. It was basically a removal of a handful of really small, spindly pitch pines, minimal pruning on an oak on the right-hand side of the view corridor, and we replaced the trees with large native shrub plantings like 4 to 5 foot viburnums and viburnums and blueberries, and then any of the bare areas left from the disturbance from the removal, we put in the low bush blueberry, huckleberry sod.
Right, in your letter you say because maintenance has not been conducted after the initial removal, invasive species have recolonized. portions.
Yeah, there were no invasives down below, and there still aren't any invasives down below. The invasives, there was a small area, relatively small, where the 3 cedars were planted up by the lawn. That's where, whatchamacallit, that's where the invasives have started to come back a little bit.
Right.
And this was all like just after COVID had started, and we weren't able to get onto the property, and so that's just how it ended up happening.
Yeah, and then in your letter, you say, we'd like to request the inclusion of ongoing conditions to provide for the maintenance.
Right. So that we can keep the area mostly up top restored, because down below is pretty much perfect.
Yep, okay.
So are you contracted with them already? I mean, I assume you wouldn't go to a meeting necessarily if you weren't, but.
I don't 100% know. We might have been waiting because it does expire in like 1 month, so we might have held off on sending something. No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I'm not at this exact moment in time.
Do you have any idea whether the client would be agreeable to this?
I would have to ask him. He did contract with us for the closeout services to go and inspect the site and get compliance. So I don't have any reason to not think he wouldn't, but I can't say for sure.
Would there be an issue with continuing this until you find out?
Yeah, he would, well, hold on. Someone just sent me a message. Oh, okay. I just yeah, he would be, hold on. Let me just confirm. I have people writing to me.
I would not approve it.
Just confirming whether he'd like to continue the hearing or he would like to contract with us. Hold on.
Oh, good, all right. Well, we're all on the same page.
Good.
So we can just go ahead and add the lingo to the certificate for ongoing conditions and then vote on it.
Yeah, he is. He does want to contract with us in order to continue the maintenance.
Outstanding, thank you.
Make a motion.
Is there a problem with, maybe send me that email or send some sort of contract that you guys have with him for ongoing maintenance before I send out the COC?
Yeah, if that's what it's, yeah, I'll get something in writing. I'm just talking to one of our account managers, so he's been in touch with him. So we can forward something along, and then we can close the hearing.
So, Nikki,
All right, yeah, so I think we're good to approve the COC, but I will not send it out and have it be able to be recorded or anything until I get some sort of contract or something, an agreement between the two parties that they are going to do the ongoing maintenance.
okay, sounds reasonable.
I'll make a motion that we approve the certificate of compliance with ongoing invasive plant management for 100 Leesers Lane.
Gordon, second.
Roll call vote, Mary?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Janet?
Aye.
Elise?
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
And I vote aye. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so the next one is an enforcement order for 107 Taylor's Pond Road, Maria and Brian Donahue, map 4C, parcel T14, failure to comply with a restoration order issued in November, and we are just looking for an update. And I don't honestly remember if I just kept it on there to.
No. Teresa. Oh, no, it was, right.
Crawford.
Teresa did the.
It's Crawford. We should get Nick back.
Yeah.
And Nick, if you're still there, or Jen Crawford. Sounds like,
I think I honestly just had Crystal put it on the agenda to keep it on our radar.
oh. So I had the impression from some earlier emails that the work may have been done by now. And so we're keen to hear about it. This is a long-standing violation that we would like to hear about. So,
Trying to recall the last meeting we heard them from. We heard from Jen at one point, and she said that they were contracted.
that's correct. And then,
So I guess
They were planning
we're
to do the
looking for
work.
an update on if everything had been planted by this point, because now it's too late to plant.
Yeah.
It's too dry and hot.
right, can you reach out to Crawford and find out if they
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
they did it?
I have Jen's number, so, so if you want to move on, I would say let's do the minutes while we're waiting for someone from Crawford to come back,
Yeah, that sounds good. All right.
and then we'll go on to the regulations.
Well, we're also, there's the yeah, oh, I see. Minutes and then regulate, okay. All right,
Just so we have time to get them back
Yeah, I see,
before we move
yeah.
on to the regulations. So the minutes to be approved are April 12th, 2023, May 10th, 2023, and May 24th, 2023.
all right. Taking them in order. April 12th,
Oh, right, we asked Crystal to go back on April 12th and
Yeah.
include the conversation,
Right.
which she did,
which you did.
which is good. I just added a couple of clarifying notes to it to clarify that this was what Ted Keon was reporting in terms of what they were asking for and what the status of things were.
Yep.
I think that everything else we had reviewed.
I just made a little note that, I'm guessing that Crystal uses the template, the first blurbs there, I actually don't say those things anymore, but for what it's worth.
Yes, it is just a template, so we can modify it to make
Yeah, whatever
more
it is,
sense.
whatever it is they
Yeah,
say
yeah,
these
yeah.
days.
Stop saying that.
Because, you know, for all intents and
One thing he's
purposes.
not, oh, yeah, she doesn't, I think that it's over.
Yeah, for all intents and purposes, I think that
we have to-
we're hybrid from now on.
Yes.
I just don't think anyone's ever going to suggest that we're not hybrid any longer, so I just don't even bother mentioning it.
Nikki, you got my changes?
Yes, we did.
Thank you.
Were
Were they good?
good changes, or secret changes, or typos, or were they substantive, or? I mean, we have to keep it on the record.
He always does it this way, right?
We always have to keep it on the record, so. Okay, just typos, I guess. Well, for 74 Henshaw, English ivy along the property line will be removed past the property line to the street edge. Yeah, I see, yeah. It's that kind of stuff, it's fine. All right. You're going to do all these at once?
Seems easier.
Yeah, all right, so going on to 510. Janet made some edits. And I made some edits on.
Karen's talking.
Doesn't have who's present.
Oh, Karen, we can't hear you, so.
Sorry, the only thing I saw was that May 24th does not have who was present.
Can't hear, can you hear?
She's saying May 24th doesn't have who's present.
Oh, I see.
No, It says the following it starts with the following applicant.
I didn't hear that.
I didn't hear that either.
It looks like the 24th, the minutes from the 24th are missing the normal beginning.
The 24th.
Yes.
Oh, I see what you mean, that the preface is missing, yeah.
Oh, right, all the stuff of who was there and who wasn't.
Well, and who
Yeah, I'll make a
and
note.
who
Attendance.
attended.
Yeah, right, good, thank you.
Got it.
All right. Well, that's a bit, we were on the 10th, so going back to the 10th. Yeah, I made some notes on the 65 Sears Road, just clarifying notes. Janet put quite a bit in here. Do we have to read all this?
No.
I guess as long as we all are okay with the notes that are in here. All right. Did you have any of those for this one, Bob?
Which one is it?
We're on the 10th now.
Yeah, I mean,
But you sent those already.
I sent those in, yeah.
All right. I guess I'll just leave it up to you. If there's anything of you
Yeah.
think that we should know about,
Yeah,
then you might as well just mention it.
they're just typos on May 10th.
Okay. Okay, I think we're actually okay with,
All right.
these are all clarifying comments.
Yep.
And on to,
May 24th, I have 74 Henshaw Drive, third to last sentence. I just thought we'd add to the end of that sentence, to prevent weed seed germination above the new wall. That was about adding the mulch. And then 552 Orleans Road. Seventh to last sentence. Change to the English ivy along the property line by the street will be removed past this property line to the street edge.
Can you read it one more time?
The English ivy along the property line by the street will be removed past this property line to the street edge. And then just a typo, let's see, on that one there, and then 16 Windmill Lane, second to last sentence, should be changed to, we'll add native plantings
All
where
right, so
the,
I talked to Nick, so whenever we're ready to
okay.
so 16
get an update on
Windmill,
that, I'm good to go.
16 Windmill Lane, second to last sentence, changed to, we'll add native plantings where the Japanese black pine were removed.
Okay.
Yep, sorry, I just realized my computer was muted. So I just talked to Nick, so if we're ready to go back to Taylor's Pond, I'm
Okay.
ready whenever.
We're almost done with the minutes, and I think we'll be right
Okay.
with you. So, that's them, right? We do them all? I think we did them all.
I think we did.
All right.
Make a motion that we approve the minutes for April 12th, 2023, May 10th, 2023, and May 24th, 2023.
Gordon, second.
Roll call vote, Mary?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Janet?
Aye.
Elise?
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
And I vote aye. All right. Back to you, Nikki.
All right, so the enforcement order for 107 Taylor's Pond, Maria and Brian Donahue, map 4C, parcel T14. Failure to comply with the restoration ordered. An update, so they literally finished planting everything yesterday.
Oh.
And the temporary irrigation was installed, so it's progressing. So basically, that's the only update. Obviously, we'll have to go back out, or I'll have to go back out a couple times to make sure it's growing well and all of that kind of stuff before the COC gets issued. But yes, the Crawford Land Management is on the job and have completed the planting.
All right, I thought we originally, when Jen was before us, she said that she would, when it was all done, come back and present on what she saw, what they did, and just basically tell us what it looks like and what's happening. I would like to request that. This is a high-profile violation, a long-going issue, and extensive amount of work that was, extensive amount of vegetation, or trees that were removed, and a lot of remediation. So would you ask them, Jen or Crawford, if they'd be willing to come back and just make a presentation to us on what they did?
Yeah, that would be fine. I would suggest giving them maybe like a month to see if,
Yeah.
things are dying off or anything like that.
So I don't know if we
So
could
that would
just
be-
schedule it here without their knowing about it, or whether you could ask them like when a good time would be, and then we can schedule it next time we meet.
I think that's why this was on the agenda, so that we kept it just on our radar instead of forgetting about it like most enforcement orders.
Yeah, well, those days are gone.
So how about we say July 12th, and I'll confirm with Jen or Nick that works for them.
All right, let's do that.
Maybe some, pictures submitted, a quick restoration plan update.
Yeah, just to have them, just to talk to them about what they saw and did. All right, July 12th. So we're going to continue,
To July 12th.
yeah, for 107.
Okay, make a motion that we continue 107 Taylor's Pond Road to July 12th, 2023.
Gordon, second.
Roll call vote, Mary.
Aye.
Bob.
Aye.
Janet.
Aye.
Elise.
Aye.
Aaron.
Aye.
And I vote aye.
All right. So now we're on to the proposed changes to the Chatham Wetland Protection Regulations.
Yes. So I have a little bit of, I have some things to say about it, because it's been a long time since we last took it up. But this does mark the fourth public hearing we have held on proposed changes to the Chatham Wetlands Regulations. This is a process we began internally about 12 months ago. First public hearing on August 17th, 2022. As discussed in previous hearings, our motivation was to provide more detailed guidance where current regulations, which were last updated over a decade ago in general, are unclear, but to also provide some additional protection for resource areas where existing regulations are inadequate. Among the feedback that we received from the previous public sessions was that some of the proposed changes were beyond the scope of the existing Chatham Wetlands bylaw, and that the bylaw would need to be changed, which would require a vote at town meeting. We then asked for advice from town council on whether this appeared to be the case, and we've now have received that advice. In sum, we were advised that with a few changes in wording to the proposed regulations, which we will go over, that our proposed changes to regulations are within our authority to make per the existing bylaw. We were also advised that the proposed changes did not exceed the scope or authority of the existing bylaw, and that we had otherwise exercised adequate due diligence in publicly discussing the changes. So we are here once again to publicly discuss and consider the proposed changes to the regulations. And Janet Williams, who has been spearheading this all along, can describe to us the changes that we made as a result of the advice from town council.
Okay, thank you, Bob. We did put a copy of the memo that we received from town council. I believe it's been posted on my town gov. But briefly, he reviewed, the first thing he looked at was our definition of adjacent upland resource area and compared that to the language in the bylaw. We are authorized by the bylaw to promulgate regulations that are, in a beautiful example of a double negative, not inconsistent with the bylaw. So that's what he was looking at, was for consistency. And it turned out that our definition of adjacent upland resource area referred to the area within 100 feet of a resource area, whereas the bylaw says the land within 100 feet. So we changed area back to land, and we added the word title after action, which had been inadvertently dropped out. So that definition is now not inconsistent. The next one was the definition of the no disturb zone. And a couple of things. We had actually put into the definition some language that was actually more appropriately put into the preamble, which discussed some of the ecological values and services that the no disturb zone provides. So we moved that into the preamble to remove it out of the definition, which was a little bit troublesome. And the second item was that we had omitted the reference to variances from the definition, which in the bylaw says the area within 50 feet, which cannot be altered without the without a variance, conservation variance. So we put that reference to variances, the requirement to receive a variance, back into the definition of the NDZ. That was the main advice that council gave us in terms of making our regulations consistent. And that was it. There were no further changes based on his review. And he concluded that we have the authority to do this. They are not inconsistent with the bylaw. And he sees no reason why they shouldn't be promulgated as written. So we shall do that.
We should do that.
Finally.
So can I ask whether we have all, once again, looked at the proposed changes there? And does anyone on the commission have any questions, comments of any kind on them? Okay, I hear nothing. I'll ask whether anyone online or who's listening or watching has any comments or questions about the proposed changes. So,
Apparently nobody. Let me just make one note, one comment. Given the focus that we have been putting on native vegetation and native cultivar as being not strictly, we wondered whether we should put that into the definition of native vegetation. I have gone back to the definition, and it reads both in the aura section and in the vegetation management section. These definitions appear in both because they're relevant to both. It says it means the plant species that occur naturally in eastern Massachusetts as identified in the Massachusetts Coastal Zone Management Coastal Landscaping in Massachusetts Plan, or are identified in the Chatham Conservation Commission Native Plant List. So by definition, if we don't include those native cultivars on that list, they are not considered natives.
but are there cultivars on the other list? The first list you
The
mentioned?
Massachusetts Coastal Zone Management,
Yeah.
I don't believe so, but we can check that. I don't think so. That's been a standard reference point for native vegetation for quite some time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fair, it's a way less extensive list than we have for just the town of Chatham.
Okay.
Um,
Might be worth double
I
checking.
always generally tell people to stick to the native plant list, and if they want something slightly different, they can ask me about it, and I can do some research on it and see, like, you know, how native it is. Does it have, you know, pollinating, is it a pollinator, that kind of stuff. there's several websites that are really good about bringing up any type of plant. So I don't know if we just want to maybe add a note to the bottom that says, if you
Well-
want to defer from this list, please ask the conservation agent before you submit an application.
To be honest, Nikki, we're trying to simplify this process.
Right.
And prevent, people from calling you and saying, well, what about this or what about that, which requires you to do research on each one. The native plant list the beauty of using a definition and just referring to a list is that the list will be updated periodically as we make decisions about as we've done with oak leaf hydrangea, for example. We put that on the list. So it makes it easier for them to use. It's on the list or it's not on the list. And that's a lot easier for you and a lot easier for them and a lot easier for us.
Yes, I definitely see that point of view for sure.
The other issue is that sometimes there's differences of opinion about what a native is. You'll come across different experts arguing about it. And so, in a way, for me, as I think I've said a number of times, is if it has, we don't want cultivars, basically. And so if it has a descriptive name attached to it, then it's probably a cultivar. I don't know if that's a 100% reliable way of doing it, but I think it's pretty close. So anyway, Janet, you're suggesting actual language.
The language that's in there, I think, serves.
All right.
And we then use our internal list that's posted on the website to update.
Yeah, we've got.
If someone can always come and say, okay, this plant is not on your list, but let me tell you all of its ecological benefits.
Make the case for it.
And make the case for it. The reason that we're doing this is because it's been shown, it's demonstrated that native plants have these functions and values that non-natives don't have. And if someone can actually make that case, we should consider it.
I just think, I agree with you that it's better to have a list though, because it's much easier for both sides to manage the discussion if we're all looking at the same reference point.
Right.
Yeah, well, okay. But whenever someone makes the case, we have no criteria for what that case is. So.
Well, we can always develop another guidelines. That's not a regulation, that we can guidelines for determining.
Although from that standpoint, we don't have the guidelines right now, and we have a list.
That's correct. I'm just trying.
So we're really not changing anything. We're just.
I'm just aware of the fury of the debates that occur about what is native and what isn't, and I'm trying to figure out a way for us not to get sucked into it, or for the agent not to get sucked into it. And if someone claiming this plant here is perfectly fine, and I think it takes more work than one might think to research whether or not that's really true or not.
Right, and that's why the burden of doing that should be on the proponent of a particular, of including one, and show us what you've got. Show us the academic journal, show us the science.
But by your language, you're saying convince the agent.
No, I don't want the agent. The list is maintained by the commission. Adding to it would require a vote of the commission.
Okay, okay, that part has not been stated, so are you okay with that, Nikki?
Questions actually come on the grass mix, there's this mix I found in New Jersey, is this considered native? And so then I just look up what the seed mix is and say either yes or no, it contains bluegrass or something like that. So that's usually most of the questions I get about that. But
seed
for the
mixes
most part,
aren't on the
just
list.
an applicant coming to the counter for an administrative review or just wanting to know what they can do on their property, I give them our list and I'm just just pick from here. So if they want to deviate from that, then they would have to say why in their narrative or, whatever they file.
which would come before the commission.
Correct.
Right, okay, all right. All right, are we ready at long last?
I have a question.
Oh, Bob.
When we're talking about the 75-25 percentages
Yep.
in the,
Outer aura.
in the outer aura, is that in here?
Yes.
Yep.
What, where is it? I didn't see
It's
it.
it's in the vegetation management, and I think it
I
might
just
be
saw that.
in the outer aura. Sometimes it's hard to figure out sometimes where something belongs, such as that. Does it go in the vegetation management section, or does it go in the aura? Sometimes I put it in both.
This is in vegetative management?
I think so. It's also in the aura, under section E2, landscaping within outer auras. Within the outer aura, at least 75% of plants installed must be native species.
Okay.
And then it's C1. It says
C1, I see C1, yeah. We're up to 25% of the installed ornamental plants may be non-native species. Yeah, okay.
Expressed in the inverse,
Well, but
for no reason.
Are you in agreement with that?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Just wanted to make sure it was there.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
Make a motion that we approve of the changes to the Chatham Wetland Protection Regulations.
Gordon, second.
Roll call vote. Mary?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Janet?
Aye.
Elise?
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
And I vote aye.
Just on a side note
Good
on
work,
that,
Oh.
I'm thinking we have next week off, so I'll have a week to maybe prep a document that's kind of like a cheat sheet of our regulations for, just the regular homeowner who's not really familiar with our wetland regulations, and say, 25% has to be, or 75% has to be native. It goes with the brochure, but maybe just like a cheat sheet of the major points of our regulations.
Yeah, sure, a cheat sheet would be good. If you wouldn't mind letting us have a peek at it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was just gonna see what I could come up with next week.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
And see if there was anything I don't think is already included in the brochure,
Oh, there's plenty
to
that's
see if
not,
I even need to do it.
there's plenty that's not in the brochure. I didn't really include in there that fact, for example. It's a much higher level document. The brochure is. But anyway, a cheat sheet would be good. Maybe a separate, it's a separate flyer of some kind, a separate document of some kind that could be handed out. That'd be great. And since you mentioned the brochure, I know that there was, I asked about it a couple of weeks ago, and I guess it sort of slipped through the cracks. And then Crystal, I suggested that she get some more eyes on it, just to proofread it just one last time. And she got a few people to look at it, including Dr. Bob. He looked at it. I made a couple of changes to it, very minor. And then as far as I know, it's ready. I just didn't know whether you have decided how to do it, whether you're going to get it, professionally printed or whatever.
Yeah, as far as I know, it's ready, so I will double check. We can definitely get it professionally printed. You shouldn't have to spend your time doing that. We have the resources.
Yeah. And then she asked how it should be, sent out, and I had a whole bunch of thoughts on that. And the ideal thing, of course, would be to mail it out to those who are in resource areas. But I just don't know if we have a way of doing that.
Just from experience, that's a little bit hard to do. But I can talk to the assessors about that to see if there's a way that they can identify all those parcels. We are going to definitely mail it out with our new, as you know, we mail a letter for everyone who purchases a house in a resource area. We mail them a letter letting them know. So we include the brochure in that. But I can see if the assessing office can do like an abutters list of everyone that's in a resource area.
That would be fantastic. I was actually told by somebody who I happen to live with that there is a way of doing that at the assessor's office, so hopefully that's true.
We did it when I was in Truro, so I think there's a way. So I'll just have to talk to Candace.
Okay, good. That'd be fantastic. Because that would, you know, guarantee that we have plausible, we don't have plausible, we don't have deniability on this. At least everybody we know will know the rule.
And I'll have to get approval from Dr. Bob just
Sure, of
on
course.
like the postage amount that it may cost,
Yeah.
depending on how many properties there are, which is, I assume, quite a few.
Yeah. I think you get a discount. Okay, all right, thank you for
Yeah.
that. And anything else? We want
I just have a quick, one last thing. The MACC guidebook, Janet brought it up through email with me that she didn't have access. And so then I tried to log in and I realized I didn't have access anymore. So I am going to register for the online version with the conservation email. So I'll send everyone the login information to access the online version. But I just need to know if anyone specifically wants a paper version, which, side note, is out of stock at the moment. So I don't know.
No,
if
we're
it's
not
coming
into
back.
paper here in the Conservation Commission, no.
All right, so
Login would be
I
great.
will buy it
Except
on
the
the,
brochure.
I think it's a yearly subscription, so I'll just renew it every year on the general conservation email. And then anyone can access it.
What did you say? Oh, okay, all right.
Okay, that would be fine.
Yep, all right.
I just have a comment on the regulations. Thank you, Janet, for doing it and all that work.
Thank you.
A lot of time and effort. But secondly, should we have a cheat sheet for the professionals as well with some of the changes?
I was just thinking about that, though. I was asked by, again, somebody I live with, who's on the, the South Coastal Waterways, saying, oh, can you give me a summary of what the changes are?
Do you want them to look at the
Because-
whole thing?
I just wonder
Yeah,
what,
because they don't want to look at,
Well, it's not so
but-
hard, it's not so hard to explain. So there's two new sections. Mitigation standards and vegetation management are entirely new. So they should read that. That's all new
Okay,
stuff.
so-
And in terms of the aura and the variances sections that were changed, part of the problem was that I tried to do a black line version to show where they were changed. But things got moved around, and so everything was it was just
Yeah.
a mess. So it was really hard to tell. But we can at least, they can show them that and say, this is, good luck reading this, but
I think that,
neither one of them is long, and they're
Yeah.
both pretty
they're just gonna have to
straightforward.
read it.
Yeah, they're just gonna have to look at it.
the cheat sheet, I think if we were able to come up with one, if Nikki could start one and we can sort of finish it off, I think it could apply to both professionals and to homeowners because there's nothing all that
not that-
technical. There's nothing technical in there, it's just changes.
Yep.
We can do that. Okay,
All right.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
Gordon second.
roll call vote. Mary,
Aye.
you beat me to it.
Sorry.
Aye.
Look, we're off.
And Karen's already gone.
Aye.
I'm going aye too. Fortunately, we have a quorum so we can adjourn.
All right.
We're only an hour past for your prediction?
No, 3:15, 45 minutes.
45 minutes past, okay.
That's not bad.
Okay. Well,
Next week off.